With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's a pair of tricky circuits up tonight for the PRL. First up on the docket is Mid-Ohio, an undulating roller coaster of a track in the heartland of America. Later on in the night, we'll travel down under to one of the newer additions on iRacing service, Sandown, an absolutely power blast of a circuit encircling a horse racing track. Who will be able to prevail around these tricky road courses? We'll soon find out. Welcome everyone to the Precision Racing League's Monday Night Series. First up, the MX-5 Cup. My name is DJ Clark, and joining me here in the commentary booth is Joey Tebben with our director and producer Hugo Louise behind the scenes. And Joey, first off, a very, very happy Halloween to you, but Mid-Ohio and the MX-5, this is going to be a real treat. Looks like Joey's having some audio problems here. We can't exactly hear him at the moment. I know you're probably trying to do a little bit of an impression of me there, Joey, for Halloween, but let's see. All right. As we try to get on.
We put all of that effort into that, and my mic was muted. This is the biggest disaster of all time. I can't even replicate it now. So I'm going to do a different impression for Halloween here. I'm not DJ anymore for Halloween. I'm going to be Detroit Lions wide receiver DJ Chark, but it's kind of last minute, so I don't have a costume anymore. Sorry about that, folks. Don't tune out.
It's all good. Well, we've got plenty of racing action in store for you here, but before we get to any of that, let's go ahead and check out the schedule here for the MX-5 series as we are over halfway here. We just were at VIR. We continue our romp through America at another tricky circuit next time out in Sonoma, then head across the Atlantic to go to Zandvoort, and Joey, we round things out at Road America.
Road America, we've always circled it as the perfect way to end the season. But I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks especially. I'm, of course, looking forward to Mid-Ohio this week. It's one of my favorite tracks in the world, frankly. But Sonoma, I think, is going to be very, very tricky. And it should also be kind of good for passing. Sometimes we put Indy cars on that track. Sometimes we put stock cars on that track. And we think it's a little bit too tight and twisty to have a good race there. But I think these MX-5s will be perfectly suited for Sonoma. And I think Zandvoort will put on a pretty good show, too. And, of course, Road America literally does not get any better than that to end the season.
No, it does not. And speaking of the season, let's go ahead and check out the championship standings here. It is Jamison Sampaio up at the top of the charts, but following his win last time out, Kevin Sandiego has eked his way ahead of Felipe Seni here to be able to hold on to that second place position. Now, Sampaio is back in the mix here today, but Seni is not, so Sandiego has a chance to be able to try to close in on his title rival. Further back in the pack, Michael Chase was able to get away from the fellow chase. Austin Bartlett chased there by about 9 points, but then it's a very close battle for 5th place with Andrew Sharp, Kelly Greenhoe, and Kevin Bergquist all within striking distance. A tied 9th place position as well between Andrew Venaro and Jason Larson. As we move over into the teams championship standings, it is Dark Horse Esports leading the way by 20 points over Unlimited Slip. Crikey Esports not too far back from them though, and that really is the battle up for the top positions, as then CFPM Sampaio finds themselves an island unto themselves in 4th place. YS Motorsports though leads the way in a close battle for 5th, with Fossil Racing, Whataback, and Hub Racing not too far behind them. Derpy Playground YT and Apollo Racing Club find themselves only 1 point separated apart, and that is some pretty close running there for those drivers. We'll keep you abreast of those championships as things continue to move along. But before we get into the racing action, we want to thank VCO, the virtual competition organization, who with their partnership makes all of this fantastic racing out on the circuit possible today. We'd also like to thank Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest, most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on all ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Also thanks to Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com. Again, that's Racebox Sim Racing, and get a 5% discount code using the Precision 5 coupon code. Also, thanks to RaceLab apps. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Also thanks to the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. And finally, thanks to Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Well, Joey, that brings us here to the action out on track, and to the surprise of no one, I think, it is Jamison Sampaio leading the way here by about 0.4 of a second over Kevin Sandiego, who now has been able to minimize that gap down to about 1/10 with his latest lap time.
Yeah, he's brought it down within the range that we kind of expect based on their practice speeds. I would still expect Kevin to honestly be able to jump Jamison. There's not a lot of straight lines in Mid-Ohio. Straight line speed and drafting isn't especially important in qualifying, but it still can help. And Kevin Sandiego and his teammates Ryan Kings and Kelly Greenhoe, they always know how to work together in qualifying. They always know how to give each other that little bit of an advantage. And also Austin Bartlett Chase and Michael Chase, they worked together perfectly at VIR last week to get ABC his first pole. So I think that's all a disadvantage for Jamison Sampaio. There's a lot of hungry drivers working together to beat him.
Yeah, indeed, there are. As you said, they're the top four. Ryan Kings and Kelly Greenhoe, by the way, occupy 5th and 6th as they run. We continue to watch Sampaio here working his way around by himself down through the carousel, and that is a very particularly difficult corner here in these MX-5s, but not nearly as difficult as it is in some other machinery that has to rely a little bit more on downforce. But I don't know about you, Joey, but that is a corner that I always struggle with, and it looks like Kevin Sandiego struggling a little bit coming over Thunder Valley, as it looks like the number 88 getting things wrong.
Yeah, everybody struggles going up over Thunder Valley. It's not just these MX-5 drivers. We saw in the IndyCar race in real life, Will Power, the champion of the entire season, decided to go kind of stupid, sent a dive into Thunder Valley, lost the car, spun around. So literally everybody will make a mistake at that corner at one point in their career, probably at one point in the session, frankly, because the elevation changes at this track with the open setups, with these MX-5s that have been especially loose compared to previous seasons. This is a special challenge compared to even VIR last week, which we said was difficult enough.
Yeah, very much so. And in that elevation change around here, it's particularly difficult. It's not necessarily like Spa, where you're coming up the mountain and then back down the hill, or anything like that. It has sort of an elevation unto itself. the corners break away from you mid-corner, and you've really got to be careful in the way that you try to pilot around here. As we continue to watch right now, Christian Lysiak working his way around right now, trying to see what the number 91 is going to be able to do. Getting a little bit of a toe up in front of him, the YS Motorsports machines getting out of the way. Lysiak hoping to improve here on what is a 13 best time. That is Frank Klein in the number 90, or excuse me, Frank Klein in the number 52 that he is getting a nice little pull off of there, and so that'll be able to help him. But the Derpy Playground driver right now has been on a little bit of a run of good form lately as he tries to move his way up forward. Andrew Sharp there in the YS Motorsports machine, wiggling the tires a little bit. And track temperature out here, Joey, down at 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Not particularly cool, but I wouldn't call that particularly warm either.
I would call that exactly just, Ohio temperate. It's not too warm. You shouldn't be sliding around that much. I mean, you're basically guaranteed to be sliding around a little bit in these cars, but it shouldn't be overheating the tires. It's also not ideal. Some drivers might want it to be down in like the 60s or even the 70s or even the 50s if you want to get that low, because a colder track, you might think that might lead to more slipping and sliding, but it really doesn't. It just provides a really optimal temperature for these tires, because it's much more difficult to overheat them when the track isn't overheating you too.
Very, very much so. As we watch the 99 here, Fossil Racing driver of Pete Thomas coming out of the carousel onto the short start-finish straightaway. Doesn't look like it's going to be an improvement there for Thomas. He will stay down in 17th place. Here is the driver directly behind him, Josh Kimball, as he comes out of the final corner. Kimball's going to cross over the line. That is going to be an improvement for the 978 up into 14th position. As we jump back here to Frank Klein, continuing to lead a little bit of that pack. Excuse me, he's actually shuffled himself around here a little bit. And this coming down through Madness, Joey, this is a prime example of some of that elevation change we were talking about earlier.
You go all the way up the hill into turn 5. You gotta round that weird crest. You gotta find the apex. It's almost like a banked corner. It isn't really, but the elevation change is so great that it kind of feels like it is. And then you go over the top of the hill. The car's going to get very, very loose. You have to make sure you're still pointing it straight, but not too straight, because you're immediately turning again at turn 6, which is a much flatter corner. You kind of think you can take more speed than you really can through there, because it seems like it's almost a 90-degree corner, but it is a little bit tighter than that. So that's one of the trickiest sections of the track at 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, very particularly difficult section. Frank able to navigate through it pretty well, though, currently holding on to the 23rd best time. Looks like that is going to be an improvement for Klein, but it's not going to move him up positions at all. Ryan King's here, second in the Dark Horse esports team, as he works his way around, currently in 5th place. He's going to be getting a little bit of a toe off of his teammate in front of him. That is Kevin Sandiego, your 2nd place driver. Now they are going to be coming up behind Michael Chase and Austin Bartlett Chase as they continue to work their way down through the carousel right now. Waiting to see here if this is going to be an improvement for Kings. I'm not seeing any sector times being improved, but he could just slowly piece everything together and try to get them, as it looks like that is going to be Michael Chase getting out of the way and pulling onto the back of Ryan Kings to see if he's going to be able to get a little bit of a toe. As there comes Kings across the start-finish line. No improvement there, but he doesn't really need all that much to try to improve up to Michael Chase. Only about 26 thousandths of a second separating those two.
Yeah, always evenly matched on track and proven to be evenly matched in qualifying now. Ryan King still needs to find his teammate to really get that advantage that he needs over the two Chases that have always been working together. Nathan Miller doesn't have any help on track either. He's just running all on his lonesome. He's usually a pretty solid racing driver. I don't remember him having especially good qualifying results this season, but he's always kind of around in the top 10. He's always picking up the pieces, but he's another driver who really kind of needs some help in this qualifying session, and he's actually going to get hurt a little bit here, because I think the lap car of Andrew Sharp... No, he didn't get in the way. He got out of the way. Well done, Andrew Sharp.
Yeah, again, some of the good sportsmanship here. That is a hallmark in the Precision Racing League that we have really come to expect. Miller coming out of the corners right now. Ryan Kings, by the way, setting the fastest time through Sector 1, so that may be something to check out here as we watch Miller crossing over the start-finish line now. Is he going to be able to improve on that 38.5? He is not, as here is Ryan Kings coming up through Thunder Valley. Little bit of a wiggle there. He did set, as we said, the personal best time through Sector 2 and Sector Sector 3, as well as the fastest out of anyone through Sector 1. So this could very well be a good run here for Ryan Kings, really clobbering the curb on the exit of the carousel there as he now brings his way down through the final two corners. Kings trying to improve on a 37.488. He's going to come across the line there with a 136.8, and that is going to be a good run there for Kings, but I don't think it counted. More importantly, though, Kevin Sandiego moves his way to the top of the charts for Dark Horse Esports, and that is going to be a 36.773, displacing Jamison Sampaio.
And you can see where he got a little bit of help. That's right in front of him. Austin Bartlett Chase and I think Ian Cabana as well. They're both fast enough to not hold up Kevin Sandiego in the twistier sections of the track, and they're also just fast enough to tow him along on the two short straights after turn 1 and after the keyhole coming into turn 4. So Kevin Sandiego got quite a bit of help there. Ryan Kings put that lap in kind of legitimately on his own with no real help. So if he can replicate that, he'll probably be in with a great shot to throw it on the front row if he can not get an off track the next time around.
Yeah, for sure, as we watch Sampaio here working his way through madness right now, up through 7 and 8, that tricky sequence that you walked us through a little bit earlier. Let's see how he's able to handle turn 9 and down into Thunder Valley, as it looks like the 419 able to carry some good speed through there. I'm not seeing, now I am seeing through Sector 3, fastest out of anyone. So Sampaio carrying a lot of speed here. He needs to make up about 0.2 of a second on the back here of Kevin Sandiego. Gonna bring the car down through the carousel, get onto the loud pedal, let the car run a little bit wide here as he heads towards the start-finish line. Will Sampaio be able to improve on this lap? Yes, he will. A 136.833, 59 thousandths of a second off of your pole sitter. Sampaio stays in second.
And he was able to do that all on his own. So that tells you that there's definitely still lap time left on this track. You don't need a draft like Kevin Sandiego had, but the draft helped Kevin Sandiego definitely, and that's why he was able to improve more than Sampaio was, because he did have that little bit of extra help on the straights. Nathan Miller, again, has no help on the straights whatsoever, but he also, unfortunately, doesn't seem to have the speed through the twistier sections of the track. Under braking into turn 4 here, way off the apex there. You definitely want to be a little bit closer to the curb there, and that's already going to put him offline in turn 5, up over the top of the hill, a little bit tighter than he would have liked. Through turn 6 and number 6, he's kind of got things back under control, but turns 4 and 5 are always critical, and you get a little bit wide in turn 4, and that's going to kill basically all of your momentum for the rest of that first sector.
Yeah, it definitely is, as he takes a big clobber of the curb there coming through turn 9, able to keep the car pointed the right direction at least, and that's going to help him out. Not seeing any personal best. Oh, he was able to set down a personal best there through Sector 3. So despite some of that offline running, we may see a little bit of an improvement here from the number 6 as he brings the car now down through the carousel with about 2.5 minutes left to go here in qualifying. Miller trying to improve on a 16th place position right now. He's going to cross over the line, and that is going to be about 2.5 tenths better, and that'll see him jump up into 12th place. Now it's turns for Jamison Sampaio. He's going to get a little bit of a draft off of the drivers in front of him. Is he going to be able to close down that gap? It doesn't look like it. A 37 flat, the best that the Brazilian can do. Here comes Austin Bartlett Chase. A personal best down through Sector 1, but not seeing any personal bests set through the majority of the rest of the lap. He's got to improve on that 37.388. He's going to come across the line with a 37.6, so that's not going to play himself out as Ryan Kings actually jumps Michael Chase there up into 4th place.
Splitting the two chases. Well done, Ryan King, stealing a little bit of draft from some of the other cars around him as well. Jamison, I believe, had to deal with a lapped car behind him. I think that might have been Josh Kimball potentially in turn 1. I didn't see who he had to navigate, but he might have thrown this lap away already, trying to get by one of those lapped cars, or one of those slower cars rather, who was on an out lap. So he's still going to push on this lap. He looks like he's still going 100%, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to improve on this one, because there was a teensy little bit of a checkup in turn 1. It doesn't look like he's holding anything back, though. This looks like he's going full speed.
Well, he may be going full speed here to try to get himself around to the line to at least get one more lap in. That could be a little bit of the problem here for him, but we'll have to see if the 419 is able to get around. About a minute left to go on the clock. Drivers will be able to complete their hot laps around this Mid-Ohio circuit, this 2.25 mile road course in Lexington, Ohio. Here comes Sampaio. I think he's going to be to the good here on time. He will be able to get one more lap in the books. Let's see, though. No, he's going to come down into pit lane, effectively throwing in the towel. Sampaio will start no better than P2.
Could be worse than P2, and I think he probably thinks he's kind of safe because Austin Bartlett Chase is about 0.6 of a second off of him, but crazier things have happened. We'll see if Austin Bartlett Chase can actually find those 0.6 of a second and maybe throw Sampaio off of that front row through the final corner. A little bit wide for Austin. I don't think he's going to find any speed this time. He's got one more shot to improve, and he's got nobody in front of him. He's still towing Michael with him, though, and his dad does find a critical couple of tenths, and he jumps Ryan King's back.
Yeah, jumps Ryan King's back, and with King's coming down into pit lane, that means that the number 43 will do no better than 5th place as the checkered flag flies here for qualifying, and we keep our eyes on this train. Austin Bartlett Chase, Michael Chase, and Andrew Sharp all in line here as they work their way around. It's a little bit of a saw at the wheel there for Austin Bartlett Chase as he exited out of the keyhole, but Joey, this is the crucial part of the track where you want to be able to pick up that toe.
That's going to be important in terms of passing when the race comes around here in a couple of minutes, because Mid-Ohio's not a bad track for passing, but it is very tight. It's a very classic style track where you're not really going to be making any passes in the middle sector or even the last sector for that matter. So you want to optimize the run into the keyhole where you can send it to the inside. You also want to optimize the run into that tight turn 4 where you really need to be within that 3 or 4/10th draft range to be able to get alongside to send it in.
Yes, you do. Keeping an eye here on Austin Bartlett Chase's times. I'm not seeing any improvements there for him. Michael Chase has been able to pick up some time here in Sector 3 over the course of the running. Let's see if that is on to improve here as they continue to work their way around. Now lining up for the carousel through turns 11 and 12. Down here into this long right-hander as they line themselves up. I'm not seeing an improvement here for either of the Chases, and indeed they will come across the line. No improvement. That will be 3rd and 4th for the father and son duo. And that is going to wrap up our qualifying, and that means it is time to go to our starting grid as everything starts to be able to play itself out. It will be Kevin Sandiego for Dark Horse Esports that lines up in pole position, flanked by Jamison Sampaio. Austin Bartlett Chase and Michael Chase will be in row 2, followed by the other 2 Dark Horse Esports teammates of Ryan Kings and Kelly Greenhoe. Behind them, it is Andrew Sharp, followed by Ian Cabana, with Buddy Chamberlain and Christian Liziak in row 5. Row 6 will be Kevin Berquist, followed by Matthew St. Aubin in 12th place. 13th is Derek Putnam, followed by Nathan Biller. Pierre Robitaille will line up in P15, followed by Andrew Venaro with Pete Bladon and Josh Kimball in P18. P19 is going to be Malcolm Foster with Jason Larson to his outside, with Pete Thomas and Robert Gallinotto making up an all-Fossil Racing row. Then it's Frank Klein and Tony Patty in 24th. 25th position will be Guillaume Guillard, but I haven't seen Guillaume set the time down, so still to be determined whether or not we will see him on the grid today. Well, Joey, we line ourselves up here, a short blast into turn 1. What are some of your keys to be able to walk away from this Mid-Ohio circuit successfully?
Make sure you don't spin on lap 1 like Will Power did this year. That's the most important part, but also, like always this season, Jamison Sampaio is kind of tough to beat. He's beatable. Kevin Sandiego has beaten him to pole this week, but you need to make sure you're always in contention with him. You need to make sure he doesn't get the lead, because when he does that, he tends to just run away with it. So Kevin Sandiego is on defense this week. Austin Bartlett Chase is on offense. They're all trying to set Jamison off of his game.
As we take a look here on the number 43 of Ryan Kings, set on the grid and ready to go. Drivers have about 1 minute and 15 seconds to continue their gridding procedures right now. As we wait on the front of the grid, there is the 774 of Ian Cabana, as we see Kelly Greenhoe popping into place, getting ready to go. And I really do not envy some of these drivers that are starting farther back down in the field here, as they will have to start around that final turn 13. That can certainly throw them off. Michael Chase, Jamison Sampaio popping their way onto the grid now. We wait for Austin Bartlett Chase and Kevin Sandiego to get everything rolling, as they are your pole sitter. Has appeared on the green, and all drivers now find themselves onto the green flag as the engines begin to harmonize and the lights come on, and we get the green flag here from Mid-Ohio, and we go racing in Ohio. It is a good getaway there for Kevin Sandiego, immediately trying to go off to cover Jamison Sampaio behind him. Sampaio takes a little bit more of a narrow line coming through turn 1, but it looks like the first couple of drivers are able to get through that tricky corner nice and cleanly. Behind them, no change in position all the way back down until 14th, where Andrew Venaro has been able to make up 2 positions. It's single file here as we make our way into the keyhole for the first time and take full advantage of the draft draft on the blast down into turn 4, Joey.
Jamison Sampaio went for a little bit of a diamond to the keyhole there. Oh, we've already got we've got trouble in the back. Fossil Skull Racing, or actually just Fossil. Pete Thomas is around. I think Galanoto got into trouble as well. Very Halloween-themed team, but it's all gone wrong in the keyhole for them.
Yes, it has, as here comes the first look from Sampaio out to the outside, going down into China Beach. He's not going to be able to get that done, has to check himself up a little bit at the apex, as a good defensive line was run there by Kevin Sandiego, as now they flit their way down through turns 5 and 6. It looks like Sampaio's just going to have to hold into line here, but any of this battling, this can certainly allow for Austin Bartlett Chase to be able to catch into the back of this. We have seen speed out of the number 17, and I think if we see battling here up from these top two, that is going to be him trying to take advantage. But speaking of taking advantage, look at the run here for Sampaio going down through Thunder Valley.
Jamison is definitely not content to just hang back this week and save a little bit of fuel behind Kevin. I think he very clearly wants to take the lead when he can get it. He's not going to find it here in the carousel. He's going to try and do a little bit of a switchback, go to the outside in the first part, then coming into turn 13, the final corner, he'll have a better exit, get a little bit more of a run on Sandiego. He's being very, very aggressive early on. He definitely wants the lead. He doesn't care about saving fuel right now.
No, and we'll have to see if saving fuel does become a strategy that we see deployed a little bit later on, as we keep our eyes focused here on Jamison Sampaio, trying to see what he is able to do, put some pressure to the back of Kevin Sandiego. And we have seen these two come into blows earlier on in the season. We hope it doesn't come to that here today, as drivers work their way now down through the keyhole, looking to get that good diamond. And here comes a good run for Sampaio, but has to check his momentum a little bit as Sandiego goes defensive.
Sampaio's still going to have the momentum to be able to be side-by-side into turn 4, but he probably wanted to time that a little bit better so we could get more of a draft coming under braking here, because now he's going to have to actually go side-by-side with Sandiego under braking into turn 4. The inside line is always the optimal line there, and it still will be for Sandiego. Now it becomes the inside line for Sampaio, but it'll become the inside line again for Sandiego into turn 6.
He's just got to try to hold that out a little bit. Good respect given by both drivers, as it does look like Sandiego's going to be able to edge ahead, but not nearly enough. Sampaio continuing to fight back side by side all the way through madness. They get onto the binders now for turn 9, trying to see if they're going to be able to keep that tricky line together. Looking in the popcorn position is Austin Bartlett Chase, as it looks like Jamison Sampaio is able to get a nose ahead as they work their way into turn 11. Is this finally going to be move done for Sampaio? It was about 3/4 of a lap in the works, but it doesn't look like Sandiego was able to give up there, trying to fight around the outside of the carousel. Finally had to give up the ghost.
That's what you can do at Mid-Ohio. You can go side by side for basically an entire lap, as long as you give the drivers around you some respect, and Sampaio and Sandiego both did exactly that, so well done to both of them. Kevin Sandiego might actually be in a better position here in second here, because he's going to be in second behind Sampaio coming out of the keyhole. He's going to get the full effect of the draft as long as he can time it right, or as long as his circumstances end up timing it right, and he should be able to fight back into turn 4, but he's got to time this perfectly.
Yeah, he's got to really work on that timing here and make sure he doesn't fall into the clutches of Austin Bartlett Chase, who runs behind him. The gap for Sampaio already up at about 6.5 tenths of a second here. That 4:19 trying to streak away a little bit. And indeed, Kevin Sandiego's got to be looking at his rear view mirrors here. Austin Bartlett Chase coming on like a train with a full head of steam. He's going to try to do what Sampaio did, go around the outside, but later on the binders is Kevin Sandiego shutting that door, and that means Sandiego will hold on to P2 for now, as there's a little bit of a crossover look for Austin Bartlett Chase, but not going to be able to play it out.
Bop, oot and booby doo bop. Where in the world is
Kevin Sandiego?
He's out of draft range now of Jamison Sampaio because of one tiny mistake in the keyhole. I mentioned how he needed to absolutely nail that. Oh, Austin Bartlett Chase hasn't nailed Thunder Valley there. He saved it, but he's going to lose about 5 spots. Sampaio just had a much better run through the keyhole to finish that anecdote than Sandiego. He just had a tiny bobble, and that's completely put him out of draft range now.
And now it's going to be ABC trying to fight back here. It looks like he's finally going to be able to slot his way in line behind Kelly Greenhoe and in front of Andrew Sharp. As we take another look here, oh, there was contact, Joey. We didn't see that.
It just got a little bit too much speed, and he got into the back of Kevin Sandiego. He didn't time that well at all. Maybe lost a little bit of depth perception and didn't realize that his closing rate was that great. There's just a little bit of front end to rear end contact, and that's what loops that car around. Kelly Greenhoe's trying to do a little bit of Mid-Ohio rallycross in turn 1 as well, so Austin Bartlett Chase might get a free position already.
Yes, he might, and there is one as Kelly Greenhoe having a little bit of a problem there around the first corner. That is going to allow for the 17 to be able to regain one spot up into 5th place right now. Sampaio continues to lead at the front of the field. Kevin Sandiego has been able to get that gap down to about 0.7 of a second, but we keep our eyes here on ABC as he tries to close down on the other Dark Horse Esports driver of Ryan Kings, who currently sits in 4th place. As they dive down through China Beach right now, we've got a little bit of action farther back in the field. This is Buddy Chamberlain as Chamberlain tries to get a little bit of a run here on Christian Leziak.
Gonna peek it to the inside to turn 6. He had a great run through turn 5, and Leziak's gonna let him go through there. He's gonna open the door, but just like with that battle for the lead, they're gonna still be side by side for the rest of the lap if they kept trying to fight that out, but Leziak was able to fight back on the outside of turn 6. Chamberlain didn't have quite the run that he needed, and he's gonna have to try and go for that move again once he gets back in the draft a little bit later.
And it looks like he's going to try to go for that move right now, looking his way down to the inside of turn 11. He's going to have to go the long way around the carousel here, and I don't know if that's going to play itself out in the short term. In the long term, he may be able to pick up a little bit of a better run, but it not looking like it's paying dividends here for the moment. They're going to continue to work their way around onto the start-finish straightaway right now, and that's going to play itself out. Up at the front of the field, Sandiego slowly starting to chip away at that advantage of Sampaio. It has come down to about 0.5 of a second here. Behind them, it looks like that is Michael Chase being forced to go defensive on Ryan Kings, as Kings had a little bit of a look coming down through the keyhole. But Sandiego continues to try to close down. Again, that gap holding at about 0.6 of a second. That's down from about 1/10 where it was a lap ago.
Yeah, that's good news for the state of this race, because Sandiego does have the speed to stick with Sampaio. Jameson isn't just going to be able to run off into the sunset here. We should still have a fight for this. Sandiego just needs to make sure he doesn't make that same mistake he made into the keyhole 2 laps ago consistently, because he definitely has the speed to stick with Sampaio. He's just got to be as consistent as Jameson is.
Yeah, and it's all about consistency here at Mid-Ohio, just making sure that those lines are run pixel perfect every single time around. We look a little bit farther back in the field. Matthew St. Aubin in a battle right now with Nathan Miller. Miller trying to hold it out to the inside there of turn 7. Let's see if he's able to get that to go. I think St. Aubin is going to have that covered here for the moment as they work their way now through 7, up over into 8. It does look like St. Aubin is going to be able to hold that out, and Miller now finding himself in a little bit of problem as that's Kevin Berquist trying to make an attack down into Thunder Valley.
Josh Kimball as well, always trying to join in on the fight here. Almost a three-way battle rather. Coming up the hill there, Josh Kimball decided to back out. Didn't really want to make it 3 wide. Didn't really want to fight with the 2 ahead, because that probably would have ended in him throwing himself off the track. But he's going to join the train now, and it's about a 10-car train. You go back from Chamberlain to Leziak to Putnam to Robitaille, all the way back to Josh Kimball there. Everybody is within about a second of each other.
Yeah, everybody within about a second of each other is up at the front of the field. A little bit of a swap around here for the Dark Horse Esports team, as Kelly Greenhoe is going to be able to keep their way ahead of Ryan Kings. I'm not sure if there was that little bit of an error that we saw from Greenhoe, maybe a little bit of a strategic decision to try to swap positions. They've got to watch out behind, though, because that's Andrew Sharp and Ian Cabana starting to close up. Here comes Kings with a little bit of a run, though. Is that going to be fought by Kelly Greenhoe? Looks like their Kings is just trying to maybe go defensive, break the draft from Sharp behind him, and that could be what he is doing. And if it was effective, as Andrew Sharp not able to get the move done.
Yeah, it's tough to pass 1 car. It's tougher to pass 2 cars that are working together in defense. So Ryan Kings is always going to have a little bit of draft from Kelly Greenhoe. He's always going to have a little bit of help, and that's not going to be very helpful for Andrew Sharp. But if it is any solace, no offense, Ryan Kings, but Ryan Kings has been a driver known to make a few mistakes this season. He's been known to bobble a little bit, and if Andrew Sharp is behind him, hoping that there is a bobble, that might be the driver you want to follow if you want to get a free position.
Yeah, try to put that pressure to the back of the 43 if at all possible to try to keep that up as we continue to follow this battle. A little bit of a narrower line there for Andrew Sharp as they came down through the carousel. You can take multiple lines through there, really depending on your driving preference. They're going to spread out just a little bit, though, as they cross over the start-finish line. Sharp, though, holding on about 0.3 of a second behind Kings. Kings about 0.3 of a second behind Kelly Greenhoe. Now, as they work their way through turn 1 and towards the keyhole, I've got to be wondering if we're going to see a little bit of a dive this way or that from any of these drivers. It doesn't quite look like it. The 2 teammates up at the front of this pack continuing to run pretty evenly together. It does look like there that Kelly Greenhoe is taking a little bit of a later apex, and he's going to be doing a little bit of off-roading. Is that going to open up an opportunity here for Ryan Kings to be able to get by? I think that is a little bit of team coordination there. Greenhoe recognizing that he's going to have no way by. Kings on through.
We'll see if Kelly can slot in behind Ryan if Andrew Sharp isn't on the scene too quickly, but luckily Andrew is too busy fighting with Ian Cabana, so that kind of worked out perfectly. Kelly Greenhoe made a little mistake, and he wasn't really punished for it at all because Sharp and Cabana were too busy fighting behind him. A little bit of off-roading, though. We do always have to think about the 13x incident point limit. At Mid-Ohio, your track limits are literally the grass, so I hope you're not playing with them that much, but we still got to think about it. We saw Kelly go off once. I think we saw Kings go off once, and we saw Austin Bartlett Chase go off once at the exit of the keyhole as well, so we might have to think about that in about 23 minutes time.
Yeah, we very well might. 10 minutes down, about 23, 24 minutes left to go there. As you said, we now follow Andrew Sharp as he continues to try to hold off an attack here from Ian Cabana as they start to work their way around. I do start to wonder here at this point in the race, Joey, it has been the hallmark here of some drivers, and just like I have a crystal ball, Michael Chase and Austin Bartlett Chase coming on into pit lane, I was going to start to wonder if we were going to see any drivers opting to come in early.
That's very, very early to decide to come in, especially considering they weren't really fighting with anybody. They were ahead of Kings and Greenhoe. They were running in completely clean air with Sampaio and San Diego kind of running off into the distance. So I wonder if they're thinking, we can come in early, we can do the longest second stint possible, and that'll be fine. And if Sampaio and San Diego start fighting each other for the win and go side by side for a whole lap like they did before, we might be able to jump them. But that also relies on them not getting stuck in traffic, which is going to be difficult because I'm looking down at my timing sheets right now, and Chase and Chase have come out on track right in between Pete Bladon and Malcolm Foster. So they're going to have quite a bit of trouble in traffic back there.
Maybe not the best call there from them, but we won't know until we see the end of the race. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Sampaio and San Diego continue their duel here, only about 0.5 of a second separating them. It looks like here that San Diego has been able to close down a little bit from China Beach all the way up through Thunder Valley, and it may be a little bit of a straight line advantage here for Jamison Sampaio, which is a little bit strange, to be honest. But as they continue to work their way through the 88, just applying pressure to the back as much as possible, trying to see if he's able to get a mistake here out of the 419, taking a little bit of a wider line through the carousel, trying to maximize that speed.
He's got a much better run through the final corner. You can see how those two corners kind of set each other up. It's almost like the last corner complex at Barber, or I guess the last corner complex at Barber is more like the complex at Mid-Ohio, because Mid-Ohio came first. But you've got to nail the exit of the carousel and then move yourself to the right as much as you can after exiting a left-hand corner or it's a right-hand corner to maximize your exit into a left-hand corner after that. It's a balancing game. It's two corners in one. Those are always the most difficult ones. San Diego did a much better job on that time, and that's why he's within half a second of Sampaio now.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get a nice heaping of the draft here, and they are going to have to worry about a little bit of something up in front of them. That is the number 00 of Tony Patty, who has come in and out of pit lane. Buddy Chamberlain, by the way, the most recent to come on into the pits. But with Tony Patty up ahead of them, a little bit of a slower car as he runs, having made his pit stop, though, has Tony. So I wonder here if that could potentially be a little bit of a fly in the ointment here for your two leaders. Maybe slow down Sampaio ever so slightly, and will that maybe tip the hand of these drivers on opting when to come down into pit lane?
It always depends on the driver, and unfortunately for Jamison, the driver in front of them is Tony Patty, who is literally making his PRL MX-5 debut this week. So you don't know what to expect from Tony. You don't know if he's going to be a respectful lap car. You don't know if he's going to just stay on the track and hold you both up. So it's just kind of a waiting game for Jamison to catch up to him and hope that Tony is respectful. He drives for an established team here, so you can only expect that, and there he goes. He is respectfully getting out of the way of both Sampaio and San Diego. Hurt Kevin a little bit more, but he did as much as he could there. It's hard to get out of the way at Mid-Ohio, but well done, Tony Patty. You've passed your first test.
Yes, he has. And speaking of trying to pass a test, Pierre Robitaille trying to work his way on Christian Lesiak, as that is Andrew Venaro behind them diving down into pit lane. It also looks like they're going to be side by side as they come out of there with a better run for Lesiak, as the majority of the field ducks down into pit lane. Robitaille going to be able to hold on to that position for now. I'm seeing Kings, Greenhoe, Sharp, Cabana, and Venaro all coming down into pit lane. Frank Klein as well following them in from farther back in the field.
It's weird seeing everything kick off this early. We're not normally used to seeing the blue Christmas tree light up this much with like 20 minutes left to go in the race, but clearly drivers have been planning something. Ryan Kings was probably not planning for a 23-second pit stop, so that's going to be another hurt in his race, but Sampaio and San Diego are happy with their strategy. Everybody else, I think, might be trying an undercut, but they're all ending up in the traffic of each other, and they're not finding the time they need. They're losing time to Sampaio and San Diego.
Yeah, they very much are here at this point as we watch Sampaio and San Diego. The gap expanding upwards of about 0.7 of a second here as they work their way through turn 9 and down into Thunder Valley. Waiting to see here if San Diego's going to be able to close. Here is a little bit of that traffic that you talked about. This is Austin Bartlett Chase trying to work his way by Pete Thomas and Pete Bladon, the two Fossil Racing drivers, as they have yet to come on into pit lane, and ABC has made his stop.
Oh, Ian Cabana's around over in turn 4. I just saw him trying to get by Robert Gallinotto, and he just completely lost it in turn 4. I don't know if he clipped the curb or what, or maybe he had a little bit colder tires. He might have changed 2 tires in that pit stop, and he's looped it around. So Michael Chase is going to be sleeping a little bit better for the rest of this race because he's got no challenge behind. Austin Bartlett Chase, though, is having a very, very difficult time trying to get around Pete Thomas, or Pete Bladon, rather, who has no reason to let him by. They're racing for position. They might be on different strategies, but it's not like these two are lapped cars. They have every right to fight for this track position, and I'm sure Austin Bartlett Chase was wishing they didn't.
Yeah, very much so, as the 17 tries to take that little bit of a later apex down into the carousel. That is one of the drivers that he is competing with. Up ahead of him, Kelly Greenhoe, who did have a little bit of a longer stop, but by going longer, it looks like he was able to get himself out a little bit free of this traffic and being able to jump the number 17 out on track. As here, ABC tries to carry a little bit more speed. That is going to be Pete Thomas kicking up a little bit of dirt on the exit of turn 1 as they all now fly their way down into the keyhole. Little bit of a look here for the 17, going to try to maybe pick up a little bit more speed by taking a later apex down through the keyhole, hoping to carry more momentum there on the exit, and that's going to certainly help ABC as Bladon runs a little bit wide there, kicking up a little bit of dirt. Here comes Bartlett Chase down to what will be the inside of China Beach. He's going to have to push it here, as that is going to be a little bit of help given to Bladon up ahead of him, courtesy of the draft of Kelly Greenhoe, but it looks like by the time they dive into the corner, Bladon's got to give up the ghost. That position belongs to Austin Bartlett Chase.
And Pete Thomas pulled a little bit of a Pruitt fade on Michael Chase in the background. I don't know why he did that necessarily, but he is fighting very, very hard for that position, even though he has to pit. Michael Chase doesn't. Here comes Kevin San Diego in. He's trying to go for a little bit of an undercut on Sampaio. Unfortunately for him, I think he might end up right behind Matthew Saint-Aubin on track, or he might find a little bit of a window. So this might work for him, but it's not been working for anybody else.
No, it certainly has not up to this point, as we focus here on the 978 of Josh Kimball, holding off Nathan Miller. A little bit of an attack from behind as they continue to work their way around. Looks like that is San Diego back out and onto pit lane, off of pit lane right now. Ooh, a little bit of a weaving there for the 978. Definitely trying to avoid everything as much as possible, trying to see what they are able to do. But Miller trying to keep up behind, as I'll call it about half of the field here at this point has come on into pit lane.
And San Diego critically did come out in a very, very clean window. He's about 5 seconds behind Saint-Aubin. He's 10 seconds ahead of Kelly Greenhoe. He can just run his fastest lap times possible and hope that everything shifts around with Sampaio, because them two are going to be the only ones fighting for this race win now, I think, unless they get into each other or make a mistake, because you can see the gap between San Diego and Greenhoe now. Those 10 seconds came from the fact that Kelly and Austin Bartlett Chase and Michael Chase, they were all running in traffic. They were all running 139s, while Sampaio and San Diego were still running in the 137s in clean air.
Here's a little bit of a battle, though. Austin Bartlett Chase able to get by San Diego, or able to get by Kelly Greenhoe. That battle percolating here for the last couple of laps, courtesy of some of the Fossil Racing traffic. It looks like ABC just able to carry a lot more speed, as we've got a big gaggle of cars farther back down in the field here. This is Ian Cabana leading the way over Jason Larson, Andrew Sharp, and Andrew Venaro.
Andrew Sharp spent a pretty long time in pit lane as well. Our timing says he was in his box for 3.3 seconds. I'm sure that's not true, but he was in pit lane for a similar amount of time to Ryan Kings, who was in for an extended stop. So I think that's exactly what's happened to Andrew Sharp. Either took a little bit too much fuel or put 4 tires on instead of 2, because he was fighting with some of those other drivers for a spot in the top 5, and now I think he's fighting for the last couple spots in the top 10 with Larson and Cabana.
And we've got more takers down pit lane. Bergquist, Miller, Thomas, Bladon, and Gallinotto all coming down into the pits. This battle that we keep our eyes on, though, a little bit farther back down in the field, continuing to stay electric. Larson leading over Sharp. Sharp looking like he's got a pretty good run going down into turn one as they work their way through the left-hander right now. That is going to be, I believe, Kevin Bergquist coming back onto the track. Venaro going to be able to maintain momentum there around the outside, and that is going to be putting down just a little bit of a position there to Bergquist. He'll have to try to gain it back into the best of his abilities. We keep our eyes focused on this battle as they work their way through the keyhole. A little bit of a wide run there for Andrew Venaro. He'll have to gather that up back underneath him here, and it looks like he's going to be able to have enough breathing room to be able to keep Kevin Bergquist behind him.
Just tracking that chase for Andrew Sharp there, and he wasn't able to close the gap in on Larson at all, but that's what's going to open the door for him. Larson almost throws it into the China Beach of the China Beach corner name. Somehow keeps it out of the grass, though, remarkably, and he'll keep that position, but Larson's throwing this car all over the place. Sampaio's in as well.
Yeah, Sampaio on into pit lane here. There is your leader taking those left side tires. That has become his signature here over the course of the event in this season. He is going to be out and on his way with a stop of 14.2 seconds, with San Diego putting in a time of 16.2. That means that Sampaio is going to be out and on his way in a lot quicker of a time. That gap has absolutely ballooned up at the front of the field. Let's call it about 3 seconds at this point, Joey.
I don't know how he does it, but he finds a way to do it every single week. San Diego was doing a perfect job of sticking with Sampaio on track with actual race pace. And then once the pit stops come around, Sampaio's much better through the lane. 3 seconds less in the box, maybe 3 seconds less of fuel. Maybe Kevin San Diego's fuel calculator was wrong, or maybe he was a little bit too conservative and added a little bit too much. But that's basically the battle over unless something happens to Jameson Sampaio. I don't want to write it off because there's still 12 minutes left to go, but we've seen this story before, and it's tough to get Jameson Sampaio off of his game in the final stint of the race.
Yeah, it very, very much is. And when he is able to just cruise up the front of the field, that is going to become something that is very, very hard to break. As we look right now at your de facto leader, Derek Putnam, leading ahead over Pierre Robitaille. I believe Putnam coming over the radio right now and informing drivers that he will be coming down into pit lane on this lap. Matthew Saint-Aubin, the other driver who still owes us a pit stop. It looks like Saint-Aubin will be coming in as well as we pass over the 12 minutes to go mark, and there we see 1-2 coming on down into pit lane, and that is going to be Sampaio there that you can see in the back of your screen as he was able to move his way by. And with Matthew Saint-Aubin also coming down into pit lane, that is going to separate our gaps here, and it's going to give us a rough approximation of this gap. It's going to be about 2.7 seconds in between Sampaio and San Diego.
San Diego did bring the gap down a little bit, though, so maybe I was a little bit too hasty. Maybe I can't write off the finish of this race yet, because San Diego does still seem to be a little bit faster. It's just a very, very uphill battle to bring down a 2.5 second gap. Even if you are 2 or 3 or 4 tenths a lap faster, there's only going to be about 7 laps left in this race, so I don't think he's going to have enough time to bring that gap down to San Diego, but he's going to, or down to Sampaio rather, but he's going to push as hard as he can, and maybe he'll have a shot, but he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of work to do indeed as we look down a little bit farther in the field at the 67 of Pierre Robitaille trying to close in on Andrew Sharp, and crucially Derek Putnam, who Sharp is all over the rear bumper of there. A little bit of a wider line there for Andrew Sharp coming off of the keyhole, but he's going to be able to keep things together, get a nice helping of the draft there off of the number 71 as they push their way down now through turn 3 and down into China Beach. Are we going to see a poke out here from Andrew Sharp? No. He is going to stay in line down through the right-hander. He is going to keep things together, but continuing to apply pressure to the back of Putnam. These 3 drivers now separated by only about 0.5 of a second, all 3 of them.
It's always difficult to pick out Derek Putnam this season. He's been with Spratty Motorsport for this whole season. He's been driving that red car all season, but I'm still expecting to see him in the toasted plum of last season. So it's always a mystery, and we have to identify which red car happens to be holding back a train here in the top 10. But this week it is Putnam, and he's doing everything he needs to do to keep Sharp behind. He's placing his car basically in the middle of the track, and he almost gets a bumper from Sharp there. He gets away with it, but we're getting full contact racing now.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of argy-bargy, as Calvin Fish would say, coming down into the final 10 minutes of racing here at Mid-Ohio. Sharp trying to push ahead to the best of his abilities, fading a little bit to the inside there, thinking about a move down into turn 1. I don't think that's going to play itself out, as indeed it looks like he's going to be forced to back off a little bit. Now they're going to try to carry a little bit more speed coming off of turn 1, working their way towards the keyhole. Could we see a run here from Sharp as they now continue to go, trying to look this way? He's going to have a look around the outside of the keyhole. That is not a move you see every day, but he's going to able to try to throw it in there, able to rebuff an attack there from Robitaille behind him, as we've had it off. Nathan Miller losing it and going across the grass.
He's trying to get back on track on the second of our 2 straights. I don't know what happened to him. He must have gotten a little bit of help in the keyhole or something to end up in such a weird spot there, but we'll have to diagnose what happened to him. Andrew Sharp around the outside in turn 4. He's very, very wide, but that's worked for him. He's going to have the inside in turn 5, and he's going to be completely clear or almost clear of Derek Putnam. Not quite clear. I thought he had a little bit more momentum than that, but around the outside in turn 6, he does, and there goes Andrew Sharp. Great move.
That was a fantastic move there from the YS Motorsports driver, as now that's going to be Putnam trying to hold on a little bit as he now faces an attack from behind from Pierre Robitaille. This gaggle here that you see on your screen does constitute our closest battle out on track, as it does look like Sampaio has been able to pull away from Kevin Sandiego here at this point, and it doesn't look like those two are closing. Austin Bartlett Chase in third. Looks like he's got a pretty healthy margin with 4 seconds ahead of his kin, Michael Chase, behind him. Little bit of a lock up there, though, for Andrew Sharp. This battle may not be over, as it does look like Derek Putnam's trying to apply pressure here to the 8th place driver.
Sharp just took a little bit too much speed into the carousel. He just really overcooked it. I don't even think that was a lockup. I think that was literally just him sliding through the corner, and that completely set him off of his game for the last corner. Derek Putnam in the background, though, was on his line. He didn't get distracted. He didn't get any target fixation, and he just ran perfectly, and that's why he's going to have another shot at Sharp here into turn 4. If he doesn't get taken out by Robitaille in the process, that was pretty close, but he should have a shot here in the draft of Andrew Sharp. He might be a little bit too far back, though, but if he can stick with him, he'll have another shot in the next lap.
Well, look at that train there closing in behind Robitaille, Venaro, Bergquist, and Chamberlain all thinking about having a little bit of a run. Indeed, it does look like Andrew Venaro is going to poke his nose to the outside, trying to take up a little bit of the draft of Derek Putnam in front of him, as he's going to go to the outside there, working their way down through China Beach. Doesn't look like he's able to hold on to that, and Venaro is going to slot himself back into line right now, as there you can see the last of this train, Buddy Chamberlain, holding on to the back of Kevin Bergquist. Really, at this point, Joey, any of these drivers could be able to gain or lose a position with just the merest step outside of the lines.
Yeah, the tiniest clip of the grass is going to mean you're losing 5 positions, basically guaranteed. Everybody's going to end up swallowing you up, just that little bit of momentum loss. It's going to be impossible to rejoin the train because everybody's packed so close together. There's not going to be anywhere to rejoin the track. So everybody's got to be on their A game here. They have been so far. They've done a good job of making very few mistakes. The only mistake we've seen out of this train was Andrew Sharp a lap ago, almost throwing it off the road of the carousel. He's completely recovered, and he's kind of driving off into the sunset now.
Yeah, he sure is, as the sun is starting to set here around Mid-Ohio, as it is just about 5:40 p.m. virtual standard time, so you do see that glow of the sun starting to set. We keep our eyes focused on the number 38 of Andrew Venaro. Big run here from Kevin Bergquist, as he's going to think about sending it down to the inside of the keyhole. Buddy Chamberlain may be thinking about trying to take advantage there, as here comes a big run wide there from Venaro. That's going to lose him 1 position, as that sends Bergquist off now. Oh my goodness, it all coming to play here. That's going to be Bergquist keeping his pedal in it, but Venaro's off has forced Bergquist off, and those 2 drivers now losing touch with the train ahead of them.
They should have an easier time of catching up to the back of the train, because there's a little bit of fighting going on with Putnam and Robitaille and Chamberlain as well, who's still there, so it could be worse. They'll still have a chance to check back up, but you saw the effects of what we were just talking about. You make 1 mistake and you're losing a ton of positions, you're losing all the ground you've made up, and you're losing touch with the drivers ahead of you. Mid-Ohio always punishes mistakes. In all of these fastest corners, there is grass on the outside, and that grass will take you out into it and refuse to let you rejoin the track. And Kevin Bergquist and Andrew Venaro both experienced that firsthand.
Yes, they did, but the battle in that gaggle certainly not over yet, as Derek Putnam now leads over Pierre Robitaille, and Robitaille in the Christmas present car, let's call it, the number 67, continuing to put pressure on to the back of Derek Putnam in the number 71 as they work their way over, crossing over the start-finish line here. Only a couple of laps left remaining as we tick past 4.5 minutes on the clock here at Mid-Ohio. Sending the car down to the inside there of turn 1. It looks like Robitaille lost a little bit of distance, more run around the outside there for them as we continue to work our way around.
Putnam's caught back up to Sharp. Sharp wasn't able to drive off into the sunset, like I said. He had a couple of glory laps. He was pulling away, and now the Putnam probably doesn't have as much pressure behind him. Now that the 5 cars that were behind him have kind of separated, he's doing a great job here of keeping his focus forward, keeping his focus on Andrew Sharp. He's going to be a little bit too far back to dive into turn 4 this time, unless he does something absolutely insane. But he has completely closed that gap down, and if Andrew Sharp makes another mistake, he's done it before in this race. Putnam's there. He's fought back.
Yes, he certainly has. Is Robitaille, though, looking to be the one in the catbird seat, taking a little bit of a look there around Madness, going down into turn 6. Your leader, by the way, crossing over the line with about 3.5 minutes left to go. So I believe that should be 3 laps to go for your leader, if my math is correct, which it very seldom is. But we continue to watch Robitaille here, putting that pressure to the back of Derek Putnam. And as you said, Joey, I've got to give credit here to Putnam. He is withstanding this pressure extraordinarily well.
It's no surprise. He was a pole sitter last season. We were always seeing him pick up great results last season in a little bit smaller of a field. And now that he's been put in a bigger field, in the big leagues of the MX-5s this season, kind of, he's done a great job of holding off a lot of these new names, of working with the new drivers, of racing with a lot of old names like Andrew Sharp with a lot of experience. And he's kind of put himself as one of the names you really have to contend with in this series. If you want to fight for a top 10, you got to get through Derek Putnam.
Yeah, you very, very much do. You have got to try to push your way forward, if at all possible, here at this point. Robitaille taking a little bit of a longer line around, trying to see what he is able to do. I don't think that's going to play itself out, but here comes Putnam coming along side by side there with Andrew Sharp. They're going to be side by side, thinking about a little bit of a run to the middle. There was Pierre Robitaille. That's not going to play itself out, but can Putnam be able to get this position over the YS Motorsports driver as they dive down into China Beach? Yes, he can. Now the question is can Robitaille be able to hold this out coming through the left-hander?
Unfortunately, yeah. Well, I was going to say unfortunately no, but that was Andrew Sharp who ended up on the outside. Pierre Robitaille was able to make that move, and that's 2 moves in 2 corners, and Sharp is still off of the rhythm as well. Chamberlain is all over the back of him. He might be able to get Andrew Sharp before this lap is over as well. But there was just one mistake in the keyhole for Sharp. He bobbled a little bit. Putnam got to his outside. Then he overcooked it in turn 4, and Robitaille got to his inside. And it's still going wrong for him because Buddy Chamberlain's still all over the back of him. This has not been a great lap for Andrew, and there he goes off the road.
Oh, getting it wrong. There is Andrew Sharp. He's going to find himself back down in 10th place position, and he's going to have Buddy Chamberlain for company. This is certainly not done here by any stretch of the imagination as they cross over there with about a minute remaining left on the clock. Are they going to be able to hold this out? Robitaille wants a little bit more. He's poking his nose up and trying to be able to get by the number 71 of Derek Putnam.
Robitaille's been very aggressive under braking into the keyhole. He's been better than basically anybody every single time through here, but it's all kind of fallen apart on the exit. He's decent on the exit. He's fine. He's able to keep within draft range, but he needs to find a way to match his late braking abilities in his exiting abilities, because he would be hard to beat, but his exit wasn't quite good enough to be close enough to Derek Putnam to dive it into turn 4. He might still have a shot if he goes for a late move, but he's still a little bit too far back. I don't think he's actually going to be able to make that move, and Putnam's able to clear him.
Putnam able to clear him, get on by. Robitaille going to be forced to try again, as with about 15 seconds to go on the clock, your leader, Jamison Sampaio, will cross over the start-finish line to take the white flag from Barney the Flagman, as we've got to focus back on this battle because it has no chances of abating here at this point. Robitaille continuing to put pressure onto the back of Putnam coming down through turn 9. He's going to try to carry that around. Buddy Chamberlain try to take a little bit of an opposite line there as well. Andrew Bonaro still interested in the back of this battle as they continue to push their way through the corners. Now up through the carousel, and they run to the white flag.
Robitaille's got one more shot to take advantage of that place where I know he's really strong. He's just got to maximize his exit of the keyhole. That's all he has to do, and he'll have a great chance into turn 4 to actually take this 9th place away, or this 8th place away.
Yeah, that's all he's got to try to do here at this point. Is just focus his eyes ahead here a little bit. Oh, is that is Sharp running very, very wide around the outside of turn 1. That's going to throw him off a little bit as now they try to focus their way back up forward, looking their way around, trying to see what they are able to do. Here comes Robitaille looking to the outside. That's actually going to open up an opportunity here for Andrew Sharp to be able to get the run, and now they're going to drag race going down towards the keyhole. No, they're not. That was Sharp backing out of it, wanting to take the draft off of Robitaille.
Robitaille got the exit he needed. He's still about 3/10 behind, but I think if he times this right, he will be able to pull alongside with Putnam under breaking into 4. He's going to be forced to the outside. Very smart driving by Putnam, but Robitaille doesn't care. He's going to make the move around the outside. That's going to become the inside for turn 5, and they might have to fight this for the entire rest of the lap, or no, they're not. Robitaille's going to spin on the door of Putnam.
And here comes your leader across the start-finish line as Jamison Sampaio takes another win and notches up more points in his championship bid. Kevin Sandiego will come across the line behind him to finish second. We focus back on the battle right now. Andrew Sharp trying to put pressure now to the back of Derek Putnam, and now it looks like we could have a little bit of close running here in the two couplets starting to separate themselves, with Andrew Venaro trying to close in on the back of Buddy Chamberlain. Only a couple of corners here to go for Sharp. He tries to look down to the inside there of turn 11. That's not going to play itself out. Now has to go to the outside of the carousel. Chamberlain carrying a bunch of speed as they go down into the corner. Now working their way through 13. Sharp's going to find himself in line, and I think they're going to cross over the start-finish line the same way as they went in. Yes, indeed they are. It's going to be Putnam, Sharp, Chamberlain, Venaro.
Poor old Pierre Robitaille, though. Tried to go side by side with Putnam and just kind of overcooked it a little bit. Ended up just inside the door of Putnam, basically, and when you do that, the MX-5 pendulum's around. That's basically a guaranteed thing when you hit somebody in turn 5 there, and that's gonna hurt. He was having such a great race. He was in for, I think, potentially his best result of the season in P8, and it all went downhill. I think he's gonna finish. Did he even finish? I can't see where he is. Oh, he's 14th. So yeah, outside of the top 10.
Outside of the top 10 there, a very rough day for Robitaille as we watch them of the final drivers coming across the line. Jason Larson, Malcolm Foster, and Robert Gallinotto, as well as Tony Patty on his first time of asking, going to be able to come home 23rd. And that's going to bring us to your final finishing order around here at Mid-Ohio. Jamison Sampaio able to take victory over Kevin Sandiego, with Austin Bartlett Chase 3rd and Michael Chase in 4th. Then following them home, it will be Ryan Kings and Kelly Greenhoe for Dark Horse Esports. Ian Cabana and Derek Putnam, they're able to emerge victorious on that battle that we were watching. Andrew Sharp in 9th, followed by Buddy Chamberlain in 10th. And then in 11th, it was Andrew Venaro, followed by Kevin Verquist, Matthew St. Aubin, and Pierre Robitaille, only able to get a P14 after that contact into the wall. Then it was Josh Kimball, Christian Lesiak, Nathan Miller, Pete Thomas, Pete Ledon, and Jason Larson who round out your top 20. Then it was Malcolm Foster and Robert Gallinotto, with Tony Patty 1 lap down and Frank Klein a DNF on the day. As we wait for these drivers to filter their way on into the booth, Joey, we promised you some electric excitement, and that's exactly what we got from these drivers.
Mid-Ohio is always a track that puts on a show. I got a message from Ted Lowendick, who you'll see racing tomorrow night in the GT3s here in the PRL. He said best track on the service. It's debatable. I don't know if Mid-Ohio is the best track on the service. I'm partial to Long Beach and Watkins Glen, but Mid-Ohio's definitely up there. If you got to make a top 3, I think this is definitely going to be on there.
It's certainly up in that top 3, top 5 territory for myself. I know that for sure, as very, very exciting stuff to be able to see here. Still waiting for drivers to come on in. And well, let's talk for a minute now while we've got a little bit of time to wait about Sonoma next time out. Gonna be another equally tricky track, but I can tell you, Joey, plenty of places to overtake around there as well, especially in these low downforce MX-5s.
You can call it the Mid-Ohio of the West in a way, because there's lots of elevation change. There's lots of places where mistakes are going to be heavily punished. Just like here at Mid-Ohio, we saw what that did for the racing in those huge packs in the middle of the field. but there will also be good opportunities to pass after the carousel, coming under braking into the hairpin. That's probably going to be your best place to do it. Also into the final corner, maybe not Tony Stewart style, but you're still able to pull off some dives there. So there will definitely be passing at Sonoma next week, and just like with Mid-Ohio, it'll be very, very difficult.
Yeah, it'll be very, very difficult indeed to be able to try to get anything done around there. But a lot like Mid-Ohio, some pretty sweeping elevation changes to take into consideration, particularly through the first and second sectors of the lap. I'm very, very much looking forward to heading out there, Joey. I've had the pleasure of being there in real life. It is a great track to both race on and to watch racing on. Absolutely spectacular stuff there. So going to be a good time to be had for sure for all of our drivers.
I just wish we had green Noma. We have beige Noma with all the dry grass and the dry dirt, but green Sonoma does exist. It exists in California. Sometimes you guys have rain, sometimes you guys have water, and I want to see that in iRacing. So let's get a graphical update next time.
I can tell you, when I was there, it rained. It was very strange. It was green. My only experience to Sonoma up to that point was off of the iRacing service, so it was a very, very different experience, and one that I wasn't entirely feeling normal around. But green Sonoma does exist. I can attest personally.
Apparently, drivers who want to get interviewed by us don't exist tonight, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we did to make these drivers not want to talk to us here, but we are still waiting for any of them to show up and have a little bit of a chat with us.
I see you in the chat, Austin Bartlett Chase. I see you, and there he is, right on cue. How about that?
All right. As now we do get ready to talk to our third place finisher, Austin Bartlett Chase. Austin, a good run there out for you, but it did look like it got a little bit scrappy at points up and down through the field.
Yeah, thank you. But it did get a little bit scrappy. I had to make some passes to get through after that pit stop, and glad it went okay and cleanly.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the call to come on down into pit lane. You were one of the drivers that came in just a hair early. Was that the strategy all along, or was that precipitated by a little bit of on-track decision making?
A little bit of both, but we definitely planned that out a little bit. We thought we could get away with a little bit less fuel and a shorter pit stop if we took it a little bit earlier. So that's what we did.
Well, it played out well, and I've got to ask you, as we look ahead here a little bit more, headed to Sonoma next time out, Joey just described it sort of as the Mid-Ohio of the West. How do you think things are going to go around there?
You know, last week I told you I had to go and download this track and give it some practice, and I think I've got to tell you the same thing. I've never driven that track, so I'll go and get that one and get some laps turned this week.
Well, I wish you luck, my friend. Have fun coming through Sector 1. It's one of my favorite sectors in the entire world. Such a blast. But you have been here before. You know how this works, Austin. Who'd you like to thank?
Yeah, I mean, again, my teammate, we had a good strategy, and he came in P4 as well, so good day for Team Unlimited Slip. And thanks to you guys as well. Great broadcast. I love watching these back afterwards, so thank you guys.
We love bringing it to you, and congratulations again here on a third place, Austin.
Thank you.
All right, that was Austin Bartlett Chase. And Joey, it looks like that may be the only interview we get.
Poor Kevin Sandiego. He finished second. He always talks to us when he wins the races, but you know I'm looking at you, Kevin Sandiego. I'm looking at the camera right now. I'm looking directly into your eyes. Talk to us next week. I want to talk to Kevin Sandiego.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up our coverage there of the MX-5 series, but worry not, race fans. We have more racing action to coming at you here as the GT4 Fixed Series heads to one of the newest and most insane racetracks on all of iRacing. Welcome to Sandown. Joey, you and I had the pleasure of calling a GT4 race at this circuit last season, and I think to call it a little bit bonkers was an understatement.
Yeah, that was one of the all-time greatest PRL races, one of the all-time greatest PRL finishes especially. So if you haven't seen that race, go on RaceSpot, scroll down a little while, find the Sandown race from the GT4's last season, and watch that. Well, actually watch that after this race. You want to watch this one first. But Sean Campbell, Michael Diaz, Adam Brockway, three-way battle in the final lap. Somehow Sean Campbell ends up winning despite being third in the final lap. If that doesn't sell it for you, I don't know what will, but you should go watch it.
Yeah, you most certainly should, as it was a fantastic run. But let's go ahead and run you through the schedule here for this GT4 Fixed Series. As you can see, we are in Week 7. We head to the Nürburgring. Next time out, the GP circuit. We're not running the Nords here, so thank goodness about that for those of you who like short racetracks. Then we head to Mid-Ohio, swapping back a little bit forth there with the MX-5s. And then like the MX-5 Series, we end everything at Road America, Joey.
Ending both seasons at Road America. I mention it every week that is just absolutely perfect. I'm so happy that has aligned itself, because that is probably the best place you could ask for a championship finale. But we go back to Mid-Ohio in a couple weeks. I'm obviously happy about that. That's going to be probably a bit tougher in a GT4 than it is in an MX-5, but that should be still a pretty good race. We've seen some great races on some tight tracks this season. And the big F1 track for these GT4s, we see the European GT4s race there sometimes, but it's still kind of an odd track to go to. But it's big track, big straights, tight corners. That should be a good one as well.
It certainly should. And let's go ahead and run you through the championship standings here in this series, as we do indeed have that. It's a little bit closer at the top than it was in the MX-5 series, as Justin Ream leads the way over Michael Diaz, but only by about 8 points or so. Adam Brockway holds on to third place, 5 points behind Diaz, and then Francis Castillo-Romero is only about 9 points off of him. We do get a little bit of a gap between Bachelard and Jaquez, but Bachelard still within shot here to be able to move his way up through the order. Jaquez in a little bit of an island, about 8 points ahead of Owen Watts. Jean-Marc Tremblay about 6 points behind him. Dean Garou 5 points behind, and Chase Brown a single point behind Dean Garou. So very, very close battles up and down through this GT4 fixed field. We also have a teams championship on display for you here, and in that one, it is Precision Racing Esports leading by a commanding margin over YS Motorsports. Advan Racing holds on to P3, and then we've got a close battle for P4 with Precision Racing Esports Academy holding a single point advantage over SRT Esports. Can-Am Racing is in P6, and then Ants Hardpoint by Delta Sport about 7 points behind them. HPDS Academy and hashtag Monkeybutt Rides LRT is in 9th, with Valhalla Motorsports in rounding out your top 10. But as we turn our eyes here to qualifying and the action and excitement here at Sandown, it's a little bit of what we may have expected here, Joey. Michael Diaz, Francis Castillo-Romero in their BMWs leading the way, and I'm not too incredibly surprised by that. We've talked about the straight line speed out of the BMWs earlier on, so not entirely surprised to see them up at the top of the charts. What I am a little bit surprised about is the 3 Aston Martins that we see up there as well, from Adam Brockway, Chase Brown, and Patrick Bachelard.
Yeah, we can talk about the drivers that are at the top of the timesheets, but it's also interesting about the drivers who aren't at the top of the timesheets, because they aren't here. Justin Ream said he was sick tonight, so he's not here. Owen Watts, unfortunately, isn't here, so if he was holding on to any chance of trying to win this championship after missing the first 3 rounds, I think missing this one, unfortunately, might put him completely out of that chance unless he shows up with a couple minutes left in qualifying here. And there's a few others who are out. Jerome Bertiome's out, Brett Pancari, and then I saw a whole slew of drivers on the forums who are like, you know what, it's Halloween. I might have kids I have to take trick-or-treating. I might have some other commitment. I can't show up for Sandown, which is unfortunate, but it should still be a pretty good race, because look how close the top 4 are. They're separated by 1/10.
Yeah, only separated by 1/10 here, and that's not altogether surprising considering just how much of a power circuit and short circuit this 1.93-mile blast around the Sandown horse racing circuit is. We ride on board here with Adam Brockway as he pilots his way out of the final corners right now onto the long front straightaway. I'm a little bit surprised we're not seeing more drafting taking place right now, Joey, but is that maybe a result of not wanting to lose time through the corners?
Well, it's a result of there not being that many teammates on track. There's only 15 cars on track right now, so it's pretty hard to find a buddy to draft with. I'm sure Adam Brockway would like somebody else to work with. He would like maybe one of his fellow Aston Martins to say, hey, let's work together, or his teammate Sean Mulholland, who is here, but he hasn't been able to find anybody to help him. He's been running all on his lonesome. And he's still within touching distance of pole, but you can see that Michael Diaz and Francis Castillo-Romero are teammates for Precision Racing Esports Pro. And that might be why they found that extra 10th. They might have given each other a little bit of an extra draft, even with the straight line speed advantage of the BMW.
Yeah, that could be the reason we're seeing them be able to work their way up and forward. And if that is the case, that'll be something we have to keep our eyes on over the course of the race and the rest of qualifying itself. We're still waiting for times here from Austin Harris and Artie Mercedes right now. Interesting that Artie is actually the only Mercedes driver that we have in the field here at this point. So just a little bit of an interesting run there for them. But for Brockway, he's going to bring his way out of that final corner right now. Coming across the line, not seeing an improvement there for him. He's going to put in a time of 1:12.631. Still needs to find a little bit more to be able to get that 75 thousandths of a second to be able to bring his way up forward. Here is Dean Giroux. Giroux currently finds himself back down in the order right now in ninth. The BMW driver of the number 44 going to bring his way across the start-finish line, and I don't believe that's going to be an improvement. He's going to find himself about 1/10 off of his best time.
There were a couple of big curb hops on both of those laps, so that's why they weren't able to improve. Sandown is an extremely difficult track. We've told you that so many times, not just because it's 2 long straights intersected by a couple of very, very tight corners, but the curbs are really critical. They're so tall in every single part of this track, especially on the exit of every corner. If you take those curbs a little bit too much, you're literally just elevating the car completely off the ground and just going basically on an ollie like you're on a skateboard, Tony Hawk style. The wheels aren't on the ground, you can't turn the vehicle, and that's not how you get lap time out of these cars.
No, it certainly is not the way you want to get lap time out of these vehicles, as we now continue to watch Giroux working his way around, trying to see if he's got a little bit of a good run here. Bringing it now down onto the back straightaway. That does start with that little bit of a flick to get things going, and then he's able to bring his way around right now, coming down through the last couple of corners right now, bringing it around, and oh, big hop of the curbs there, just trying to push every last inch that he can.
Those last 2 corners are kind of like a tighter version of Mid-Ohio. They have the same thing where the second to last corner at turn 11 feeds you into turn 12. So you might think you want to take as much speed as possible through turn 11. We'll watch Frankie Arvello go through there right now. But you kind of don't, because you want to get as far to the right as you can to get as good of an exit as you can through this final corner. So it's an even game that you have to play. You have to figure out how to even out your 2 lines. Arvello didn't really get to, because I think he just got held up by whoever that was in front of him. That was one of the Porsches in front of him who really checked up. That was the 25 of Clark.
Yes, it was. And again, we make our weekly announcement. No relation there between myself and Corey, as now here comes Dylan Rutherford across the line in that brown McLaren. Rutherford is going to be able to improve. That's going to be an improvement of 1 position. He'll find himself in 7th place there, so a good running and a time of 1:12.763. Here is Matthew Wyckoff in another one of those McLarens. He's going to find himself trailing behind William Brennan here. I think that'll be a helpful thing to maybe be able to get a little bit of toe off of that BMW in front.
And Wyckoff has been quicker. He's been like 0.8 of a second a lap quicker, so he should be able to close this gap down to Brennan and maybe on the next lap get a little bit of draft and not actually catch Brennan before the lap is over. And that might help him in the McLaren, which has been very slippery in a straight line over the course of this season. It's been the car you kind of want through high-speed corners, but there's not many high-speed corners in Sandown. It's either straights or very, very low-speed corners, and it looks like that isn't especially suited to the McLaren this week.
No, not exactly, unfortunately, there for him. So he's going to have to try to push his way around a little bit more here. We check on Francis Castillo-Romero getting it a little bit wrong coming through the final sequence of corners. And that tail of the car really stepping out there. Lucky he was able to hold on to that and not having a bigger incident there, I have to say.
Yeah, stepping out like Joe Jackson, and I think that killed the pole lap potentially. He would have improved there. But just that little jink to the left, trying to overcorrect, that killed his momentum onto the straight, and he was only 1/10 off of his best lap time. So think about what he could have done without that mistake. I'm sure he's thinking exactly that and hoping he can replicate it on this lap. Drew Lidke, I think that's a new livery for him. It's kind of all black from what we just saw there. Actually, I don't think that was Drew Lidke that we were watching. We're riding on board with a different driver now, so forgive me, Drew Lidke. You're still in the same livery, and Adam Brockway puts it on pole to completely end that anecdote.
Yes, he does, with a time of 1:12.280, about 86 thousandths of a second over Michael Diaz. Brockway going to be able to hold on to pole there. Here comes Lidke across the start-finish line in that 1:21. Looks like that's not going to be an improvement there for the 1:21 driver. Here is Michael Diaz, though, trying to improve a little bit, as Wyckoff able to put in a good time to jump his way up into 9th. Diaz going to be giving a little bit of a toe to Francis Castillo-Romero behind him as they work their way out of the final corner. Is this going to play itself out? That is going to be the question. Can the 96 be able to jump ahead? That's what I have my eye on. No, but it's going to be Michael Diaz with a pole time. 25 thousandths of a second better than Adam Brockway.
And Romero did improve there. Francis improved by a couple tenths, or a couple hundredths of a second rather, but he wasn't able to jump Brockway. Brockway's doing this all on his own here again. He's got no draft, but this looks like it's been a pretty good lap for him. A little curb hop at turn 11, but he's shaped up the final corner perfectly. The Aston Martin takes those curves a little bit better than the BMW. It's tracking pretty well, and he crosses the line to not improve, though. 0.3 slower. Him and Diaz have a rivalry from last time we went to Sandown. Brockway probably should have won that race if Michael Diaz didn't do a very, very bad rejoin in the last lap. So maybe that rivalry will come to blows in turn 1.
Maybe it will. We'll have to see. Diaz still out on track, trying to improve a little bit from that 1:12.255 here at this point. Seeing if he's got a little bit more in the tank. And remember, he was able to do that without giving a tow, or without taking a tow from anyone. He was able to do that on his own speed. So a very impressive run there for him to be able to do that. We'll have to see, though, as Diaz is going to cross over the line of 1:12.3. Not faster, but still pretty much a statement time there, as he was able to bring his way forward and have a good time on that run. Now we focus back on Adam Brockway as he brings that YS Motorsports Aston Martin out of the final corner as the checkered flag flies. That is coming through the last couple of corners there on the back straightaway, as here he brings his way around down in through 11 and 12, down through 13 right now, waiting to see if he's going to have the speed to be able to take anything away. Yes, he is! Brockway takes the pole.
That was an incredible lap from Brockway. I wasn't even looking at the timing. I could just kind of see that he has this place figured out. There was definitely lap time left there, and that's quite the statement for Brockway. He's been kind of on the back foot lately after winning at Daytona. He hasn't really been competitive for the wins. Well, welcome Adam Brockway back. He's definitely going to be on pole now, unless Marvin Frias does something crazy.
Well, we'll have to see. Diaz is still out on a lap he is trying to complete right now. Frias trying to see what he is able to do here as he brings the car down through 9 and down through this sweeping portion of the track that comes down into the final couple of corners. Frias trying to improve on a 1:12.734 in the McLaren, currently 6th place right now. He's going to call it quits and come down into pit lane, as is Michael Diaz, and I believe that is going to be all drivers taking the checkered flag, and so that is going to bring us to our starting grid here for today's race, as it will be Adam Brockway for YS Motorsports leading the way over Michael Diaz. Francis Castillo-Romero and Chase Brown going to make up row 2. Frankie Arvello will be in 5th, followed by Marvin Frias in the first McLaren in P6. Then it's going to be Patrick Batchelard and Darren Rutherford. Matthew Wyckoff starts off 9, and Dean Giroux will round out your top 10. In 11th, it is going to be Joel Peregrino there, and followed by Sean Mulholland. Drew Lidke will line up 13th, followed by Corey Clark and William Brennan, bringing up your 15-car grid. A rolling start here from Sandown, and that is certainly going to, well, make for a little bit of interesting running down into turn 1, Joey.
Last season, we were kind of expecting a little bit of calamity coming into turn 1, the GT4s, but they proved us wrong. They did a great job on lap 1. They gave each other tons of respect. But it's always difficult, even when you give the most respect in the world to your fellow drivers. That first corner complex is very, very narrow, especially when you get into that chicane with those high curves. One thing goes wrong, and a lot of drivers could end up in trouble. But all these drivers have Sandown experience now. They know what they have to do, and I expect a clean lap 1.
Yeah, I would hope to expect a clean lap 1, especially considering we do have a little bit of a diminished field out here today. Only about 15 cars looking like they are going to be lining up on the day. And we will have to see, though, just how everything shakes itself out. The other big thing to talk about here around Sandown is going to be traffic and traffic management. This is a short, under 2-mile circuit. I can almost guarantee you that we're going to have some traffic for the leaders by the time things are said and done.
Yeah, even with only 15 cars, it's a short lap. It's only about 1:10. That's what we saw the pole lap as, and yeah, there should be a little bit of traffic for Brockway and for Diaz by the end of the race, but the iRacing Porsche pace car looks like it's ready to go, and I'm ready to go. I've been looking forward to coming back to Sandown since last season, DJ, and it's finally here.
I have as well. This is one that I have had circled on my charts for a very, very long time, as Adam Brockway in that YS Motorsports Aston Martin is going to lead the field around. Diaz and Castillo Romero in the twin BMWs leading up behind him. It's going to be fascinating to see how some of the manufacturers work themselves out here, if we're going to see that straight line speed of the BMW be able to come into play here. Also, as we saw last time around and our visit, what is going to happen in terms of fuel strategy? Is that going to play out here over the course of this 40-minute race around the very, very tight and twisting confines of Sandown International Raceway, as they bring their way now down through the final couple of corners here, waiting for the field to form up as we get ready to go. And there goes the green. We are racing from Sandown. Look at that getaway there from Adam Brockway, but an even better one from Michael Diaz, really and truly at the front of the field. All three drivers starting to break away, but here comes Diaz, already trying to make the move down into turn one as they dive onto the binders. The number 17 down to the inside of the Aston Martin, not going to be able to hold it out, and it's going to be Brockway up ahead.
Diaz knows that passing at Sandown is difficult, and he was going full 100% aggression at turn one there. He wanted to put Adam Brockway off of his game. Didn't work, though. Brockway kept the lead. That was a very, very messy start. I don't think anybody was really ready to get it going, but we still had it, and Adam Brockway was the beneficiary there. And the top four all benefited. They're streaking away.
Yeah, I want to give some credit there to Chase Brown. I thought he was going to lose touch with everyone, but clearly able to stay within about 0.6 of a second. It's Marvin Frias that's going to be the big loser there, as he finds himself nearly 2 seconds behind as they work their way through 6, 7, and 8, and now down into turn 9 for the first time. Again, 40 minutes on the clock here for these drivers as they try to work their way up ahead. Brockway leading the way, trying to close in as much as possible. Here is Diaz and Castillo Romero, waiting to see what they are going to be able to do, as now they continue to work their way around. First lap in the books as drivers streak across the start-finish line.
Now passing is going to get much, much more difficult for Michael Diaz, so I think he's probably going to start thinking fuel strategy already. He definitely has the pace to stick with Brockway. Romero does too. Chase Brown does too, but I think Chase Brown almost lost it out of turn one there. He's going to lose a little bit of ground to Francis Castillo Romero. But Michael Diaz behind Adam Brockway should be able to save a little bit of fuel behind. He's probably not going to go 100% aggression because he knows how difficult it is to pass. And there's quite a while until the pit cycle kicks off.
Yeah, quite a while until they get to that pit cycle. We'll have to see exactly how everything plays itself out as they run. Brockway continuing to lead. We focus a little bit farther back in the field. This is Frias leading from Arvelo leading from Bachelard. No looks going down into turn 8. Let's see what they're able to do.
This is such an important rhythm section of the track, and it's really easy to get off your rhythm when you're racing in a train like this, because you really want to take like a little bit of extra every single corner. You want to brake a little bit later. You want to take a little bit too much speed through the corner, or a little bit more speed through the corner than you can. But there never is really any margin for error for that. There is one groove at Sandown that you can take, and if you overcook it that slight little bit, you're throwing yourself off the road. You're not going to be able to recover. So that's the game everybody in this train has to play.
Yeah, it really, really is. You've got to be able to find those limits, push yourself as much as possible, and then try to be able to get everything together. As right now, it does look like a little bit of a dance there from Arvelo, catching those curves wrong as Bachelard hoping to try to take a little bit of an advantage, but it doesn't quite look like he's able to here at this point. They now work their way down through the corners, coming out onto the back straightaway through turn 5 and down to the kink there of turn 5. Aston Martin dancing around a little bit as they go, but certainly not able to play anything out here at this point.
Yeah, you need to be much closer through that corner at turn 5 to have any shot at going side by side down the back straight, or turn 4 rather. The corner names at Sandown are very, very interesting. There's lots of tracks in the world where we get kind of mad. Road America, turn 2 is not a corner. Turn 5 at Sandown is that tiny little kink on the back straight after the tight turn 4. And controversial maybe, but I don't think that should be a corner. I think that's just a straight.
I kind of agree with you there on that, but I think we're going to have to go back into the Road America style for that as we continue to check in on this battle. Frias leading the way, being able to get a little bit of an advantage here over Frankie Arvello. That's going to be good news there for the McLaren driver. Just be able to focus ahead as they continue to go. Waiting to see here. Bachelard looking particularly strong there through turn 1 as now they work through the chicane of 3 and 4. Big hops to the curb, and it looks like the BMW coming back into an advantage here.
Is a little bit closer through turn 4 that time, but he's still about 0.6 of a second off the McLaren. He's still not going to be close enough to think about a move. You really need to be completely alongside of the car ahead to even think about going for a move into turn 6, because you can see the complex at the end of this back straight. It's not like you're going into a hairpin where you can make a move. It is almost full speed. It's extremely high commitment through this little chicane. Then you're on the brakes into a very, very tight corner at turn number 9, and then it's even more difficult to pass in 11 and 12. It's almost one car wide. You can go two wide through here if you're very, very respectful, but you're really just trying to set up your exit here onto the front straight for your best chance to make a move into turn 1, and I think Arvello's done exactly that.
Yeah, it really has, carrying on some good momentum here. The gap coming down to about under 0.4 of a second as they run. Not looking like he's going to be able to make that move, though. He's going to have to stay in line as, again, we're seeing some of the difficulty to get by around Sandown. These straights, it's a power circuit, but it is difficult to get on by.
It's almost like he wasn't able to get any of the draft. That was very, very strange. I thought he was going to be able to close that gap down a little bit more. I thought he had a better exit through the final corner. He's got a better exit through turn 4 this time. This is the closest he's been to Marvin Frias. I'm just curious, does he actually want to go for the move right now, or is he happy to hang behind Frias? I have to imagine he wants to go for the move. I have to imagine he wants to fight with Chase Brown, but he's finding it exceptionally difficult to do so, and I think every single time he realizes halfway through the straight, I'm not going to be able to make this move, I might as well back off a little bit, save a little bit of fuel, and hope that there's a better chance the next time we go on another straight.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best strategy here for them, but we'll have to see if that does indeed try to play itself out a little bit. We continue to watch as they work their way now down, whoa, through the final couple of corners there through 11, trying to see what they are able to do, working their way on through right now, trying to see what they are able to get. It looks like here that Arvello's losing a little bit of time to free us up ahead, but again, he gains it down as that BMW starts to really gain time at the end of the straight and under braking.
I really thought that Frankie would have an advantage this week because he has the most fun name to say in an Australian accent. Arvello. There's no better name than that to say in an Australian accent, but it's not working for him.
Yeah, I would have thought he would have been pretty high ahead with that as well, but let's see what Arvello is able to do. Coming down here on the back straightaway, getting ready to line up for the sweeper that constitutes turn 6. To see what they are able to get, working around, trying to see what they can do. Not really getting close enough. Again, the problem here of the draft just not playing itself out nearly enough for that BMW. Joey, I think if he wants to get this move, he has got to be very, very aggressive.
He's going to have to be extremely aggressive, and he's had chances at turn 1 to be, I think, frankly, more aggressive, and I think he might be holding back just a little bit. He's got another great shot here. Marvin Frias takes the curb hugely through turn 12. That's going to scupper his momentum just a little bit onto the front straight. Arvello's within 0.3 of a second, 0.2 of a second. It's coming down. If he really wanted to be aggressive, he might be able to send it to the inside, but no, he's still too far back. The straight line speed of that BMW might be kind of extreme, but the McLaren is fast enough in a straight line that Frankie's not able to do anything.
Yeah, he's not really clobbers the curbs. They are coming through 2 and 3, trying to take a late apex. They are now into turn 4. That's going to be the best run we've seen for Frankie. Now he's going to tuck up behind the number 11. Let's see if he's able to get a good helping of the draft here as they go. Starting to close in, the gap coming down under 1/10.5 right now as they get to the end of the back straight through the curving turn 6 right now, waiting to see if he's going to be able to dive, but they've got to get on the binders there for 7 and 8, and it's still not going to play itself out. But look at what's happening behind them. Patrick Bachelard and Darren Rufford starting to close in on this battle as well.
I think Arvello's definitely holding back a little bit. I think there might be a little bit more in the tank for him in terms of straight line speed and in terms of being able to brake a little bit later. I think he is holding back, but if he's thinking fuel strategy, if he's thinking I'll just jump Marvin Frias in the pits instead of doing it on track, I mean, that'll be a one-spot gain, but that's kind of the only spot he will gain. Chase Brown is pulling away for as long as he's stuck behind Frias. The top three, of course, are pulling away even further, so if Frankie's end goal is P5, I think he can do that in the pit cycle if he just hangs back here, but he's definitely going to want to push here to take this position on track if he wants to even think about catching Chase Brown.
Well, with the aggressiveness that we've seen Frankie here really getting up and over the curbs, I've got to think that he wants to try to do this on track if at all possible. But we will have to see if he is able to do just that here, because it seems like at this point that it is becoming increasingly difficult to be able to get that pass done. One of the better runs here that we've seen him have coming down the back straightaway, but once again, the back straight not really the best area to try to get a pass done. I would make an argument that the best place to try to get a pass is down into turn 1 itself. Now we ride on board with Darren Rutherford as that's Frias throwing it all away. Frias losing positions.
Yeah, how about turn 9 for the best place to send a move? Why not? Frankie Arvello saw the door open. There was just a little bobble, I think, from Frias that opened the door. You might as well take advantage. Let's see exactly what happened under braking. Oh, there was not a bobble from Frias. There was contact from Frankie Arvello. That's what opened the door. Frankie can't really give that position back because there's 2 other cars between them now, but that definitely was a little bit of help from Frankie's front bumper, and he's about to get passed by Bachelard.
Bachelard sending the move down into turn 1, but he's going to run too wide and get a big clip of the curb there. Is that going to open up the opportunity here for Arvello to be able to make a move around the outside? No, it's not. Somehow that number 100 is able to hold on, and that is some very impressive running there from Bachelard, but here comes the fight back. Frankie Arvello thought about keeping to the inside there, going down the back straightaway, but he's not going to be able to do that quite yet as they run. Now he's going to just have to stick in line here, looking, hoping, waiting to see if he's going to be able to make that move. Let's see what he does. He's going to come down to the inside here off turn 6. It's going to be side by side coming down through the chicanes. The BMW versus the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin taking a big click of curb. There's contact there between the two. That may have even been a cut course there for Frankie. My goodness, this is all firing off.
They're being very, very aggressive for 30 minutes left to go in the race, but they know it's difficult to make moves. You need to make the moves when you can get them. You need to take advantage of the opportunities when they're handed to you. And Arvello knew how difficult it was to get by Frias. He spent so many laps trying to get by that he knew he had to fight with Bachelard in the back straight there. It didn't work out for him though, and luckily neither of them got a slowdown. I'm happy that that little cut didn't give either of them a slowdown.
Yeah, I am as well. Let them race, as they say. Let them try to be able to race themselves out on track as much as possible. But that reshuffling here, it is Bachelard leading Arvello, leading Rutherford, leading Frias here at this point. And now Dean Giroux is also involved in this battle in the final place positions. You haven't missed anything up front. Brockway continues to lead from Diaz, leading from Castillo Romero. No real changes there. We ride on board right now of the Valhalla Motorsports driver of Darren Rutherford as he tries to be able to poke his way ahead, closing down on that lead pack. And I gotta think he wants to see more of that 2-wide battling firing off, because that is only gonna serve to help him.
He definitely does. He's just sitting back here in the McLaren that has been very, very good at defending, but it's also gonna be very, very good at offense here, because he can just hang back. When the door opens, he can send it through, but he is just waiting for that door to open, and he knows Frankie Arvello is very, very aggressive. He knows he's going to want to get back by Bachelard, but now that Bachelard has gotten himself at the head of this train, he's kind of found a new head of speed because he's been able to pull away from Arvello a little bit. That was a great exit through the final corner, and he's been running some pretty good lap time since he got the lead of this train.
Yeah, he really has. He's been able to pull away there a little bit to the tune of about 0.4 of a second as they work their way down through turn 1. So not exactly a bad run there for them, as now they try to bring their way around, waiting to see if anything's going to fire off here out of turn 4. And again, it does look like Bachelard is growing that gap a little bit, 0.5–0.6 of a second as they work their way down the back straightaway through the kink of turn 5. Looks like that Aston Martin at least has the legs to be able to stay ahead.
I want to watch every single one of these cars through this turn 6, 7, 8, 9 complex here. Aston Martin versus BMW versus McLaren. You can see they all take it pretty much the same, but you can see the differences between all the suspensions of these cars. This is a fixed setup series, so you're basically relying on whatever iRacing setup you've been given in this GT4 car. So there's nothing you can do when you're hopping over the curbs. You basically just have to deal with whatever you've been given with this fixed setup. The Aston Martin's been taking them well. The McLaren's been taking them well. The BMW gets very hippity-hoppity over the curbs, and you can see Frankie Arvello knows that. That's why he took that final corner. with as least curb as he could compared to the other two.
Yeah, exactly. As here they come down, and it does look like a little bit like Arvello's been able to close in behind here as they go. The gap coming down to about 3/4 tenths of a second here at this point as they go. Trying to see if they are able to get anything here. The gap's continuing to hold. Now it's up to about 5/10 of a second as they work their way onto the back straightaway through the kink of turn 5. Looking also there at Darren Rockford, who's slowly but surely been working his way forward. Marvin Frias in the back, not exactly able to get the close run that he would have liked to, and I think that's going to pull him back just a little bit more. Frias finding himself about 1.3 seconds behind there. You can see that McLaren working his way through.
Goes a spin. Marvin Frias is around at turn 9.
Oh my goodness, that is Frias around there at turn 9. Good catch there, Joey, as that is going to send him all the way down the order, plummeting out of the top 10. It looks like he is going to be in 11th. Looks like there may have been a little bit of problems there as well. Let's try to see exactly what happened, because coming through turn 9, way too much curb.
Way too much curb, just hops around, and these cars do not like hopping around like that. There's basically no saving it once you get that level of kind of pogoing. Yeah, he wasn't able to save it, and I think Corey Clark also ran into a little bit of trouble on that same lap as well. I didn't see where he went around, but he was running, I believe, ahead of both Brennan and Mulholland, and he's lost about 5 seconds of time. So the difficulty of Sandown hasn't bitten too hard. There's still all 15 drivers on track, but it's still bitten a few drivers. We've got 2 spins already, and there's still 24 minutes to go, and a lot of drivers are still going to be extending the limits even more, trying to find more speed.
Yeah, everybody's going to be trying to push here as much as possible. I would have to think we continue to focus on Bachelard right now as he works his way through. Again, that mistake there from Frias has really separated Dean Giroux off the back of this battle. He now finds himself about 3 seconds behind. A little bit of a poke this way and that way. Therefore, Arvello trying to see what he is able to get. Whoa! He's coming up close behind here as they work their way through turn 11 and 12, now down through 13. And, oh, we've got a 3-way for the lead going down into turn 1. My goodness gracious. It all fires off here up at the front of the field. Brockway continues to hold the lead. They find themselves in single file order in the exact same way they went into the corner, but that got a little bit hairy.
Yeah, no positions actually changed, but you could see as we cut in there, something insane happened in turn 1. Let's see what we missed here. I think there must have been a mistake through the final corner for Brockway, because both of the Precision Racing Esports drivers just ended up sandwiching him at turn 1. Romero overcooked it though. Diaz couldn't be later enough on the brakes, so he was able to hang on, but whatever happened to Brockway in the final corner, that really put Diaz and Romero in contention there. They got a bite at the apple.
Yeah, exactly. It shows that just one little mistake like that is enough to be able to throw everything off and open up that opportunity for attack. As now it looks like Diaz continues to try to trail in behind as they work their way down through the chicanes here of 11 and 12, now flying through turn 13. Good one here for Francis Castillo-Romero. He's going to poke his nose to the inside. Little bit of a defensive move there from Michael Diaz, weaving back and forth to be able to try to follow Adam Brockway up ahead of him.
Thought Francis might think about sending it to the inside there in turn 1. He took a little bit of a peek to the inside, let Michael know that he's there, but he's not going to go for that aggressive of a move on a teammate, I don't think. See Chase Brown in the background as well, in that blue Aston Martin. He's catching all 3 of these drivers as they fight, so this is perfect for Chase Brown. He's saying, please continue to fight. Do that again. Go 3 wide again. I want to get in this fight.
Yeah, he certainly is, as he definitely wants to see that. We continue to focus here on the dual BMWs up at the front of the field. Again, we're seeing a lot of weaving here. I think that's that back and forth certainly coming to play here in the draft, at least having enough of a threat to be able to keep these drivers on their toes. As here we see Francis Castillo-Romero really trying to close in as much as possible right now, holding on to the back, trying to see what he is able to get. Not sure if he's going to be able to fire himself off here, if we're going to see a run coming down through the final corners. It looks like he may be a little bit far back to the tune of about 0.3 of a second. And indeed, I don't think he's going to have a realistic shot. Joey, I've got to start asking about it. Is it time to start thinking about pit strategy? Is it time to start thinking about coming on into the pits?
Definitely in the next couple minutes. We're going to get to about halfway in this race. That's when things normally start to kick off in terms of pit strategy. And if you're one of these 3, you're all holding each other up, frankly. You want to do whatever you can to jump out of this group, to jump your competitors. it's definitely time to start thinking about pit strategy. The question is just, what the heck do you do? When do you come in? Do you come in early and end up in traffic fighting with Frias and Wyckoff and Brennan and the gang? Do you come in late and risk making a mistake while the others make up time? That's the game you have to play. Those are the consequences you have to risk.
Well, we're going to have to see who decides to take that risk here. I'll tell you what, if I'm Francis Castillo-Romero, I'm getting very tired of looking at the back of Michael Diaz's number 17 BMW as they continue to pilot their way around right now, but not really having all that much luck. Trying to be able to go, trying to be able to get themselves around through, trying to be able to see if they can do anything. No, it doesn't look like it, and indeed it looks like Francis Castillo-Romero is actually falling off the back here a little bit to the tune of about 0.4 of a second. That's one of the bigger gaps that we've seen on the run. Brockway, though, growing the gap up at the front of the field about 0.6 of a second as they dive their way down into turn one.
You know, direct people's eyes next time we come around the final corner, but that's where Brockway is really making up all of his time. He can run the curb through the final corner at turn 12. The BMWs can't. If the BMWs hop that curb, they end up trampolining around and losing all the momentum they would have gained by taking more speed through there. So Diaz and Romero both have to be very, very conservative. They have to run a little bit slower through the final corner so they don't hit the curb. Meanwhile, Brockway is able to take it as much as he wants. He's able to take more speed through the final corner, and Diaz and Romero can't really do anything because they're already at a momentum loss and the straight hasn't even started yet.
Yes, indeed they do. As we'll have to see if that momentum shift is able to play itself out. What exactly can happen here between these drivers? Continue to watch Castillo-Romero looking a little bit closer. We are officially over the halfway point here, so if drivers are thinking about coming down into pit lane, now might be the time to do it, but it doesn't look like any of the leading three decide to pull the trigger.
Brockway didn't really run the curb that hard that time. Diaz put about half of a car up on the curb. That's as much as you can get away with. But Brockway's able to do so much more than that. He's basically able to put all 4 tires on the curb. The 2 BMWs can't do that. So we'll see if he has to do that in the next couple of laps. There is a lapped car ahead. Sean Mulholland has pitted. He is slower than the leaders, even though he has pitted, so he might be a little bit of legitimate lap traffic. And Corey Clark has pitted as well, but he's still in his box, so I think he might have had an incident that he's still getting repaired. But these guys might have to think about Mulholland, and that might be the trigger for Brockway to come in, because that's his teammate ahead.
Yeah, that would at least be my trigger and my thought. And you're right, Corey Clark stationary in the pit stall for about 2.5 minutes here, so I've got to think that that is a little bit of damage involved. We continue to ride on with Francis Castillo-Romero, third in line on the train. The BMWs, both of them taking a big clobber of the curb as they now work their way through turn 9. Onto the loud pedal here, about 0.3 of a second separating Diaz from Francis Castillo-Romero. Coming down now through the last couple of corners here. Do we see anybody pull off? No, but that was Sean Mulholland, who whether by intent or whether by accident found himself off track and let the leaders on by.
That's the most respectful thing you can do. Just completely throw yourself off the road, sacrifice yourself to let the leaders through. I don't think that was intentional, though. I think he made a little bit of a mistake, and he said, if I'm making this mistake, I should probably exacerbate this mistake and completely throw myself off the road so I don't help hold up my teammate. And that's kind of smart driving from Sean Mulholland. So well done by him to get out of the way, to not hold up this battle for the win. It's very, very exciting here, and I think after the pit cycle, things are really going to kick off. You see how aggressive Diaz and Romero are right now? Wait until they're actually fighting for the win after the pit cycle with about 14 minutes to go or so.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very close running for them. And we saw last time at our visit to Sandown just how close and just how intense the battles were up at the front of the field right now. As here they come out of turn 9 once again. You can see the actual horse race track there off to the inside of this Sandown International Motor Speedway as they try to be able to bring their way around right now. 17 minutes remaining on the clock, and it looks like we've got our taker down pit lane. Here comes Adam Brockway.
Interesting from the lead there. I would not expect the leader to be the first driver to come in, but he's clearly looked at his relative. He's seen that the pit delta for a normal pit stop, like for his teammate Sean Mulholland's, about 35 seconds. That should put him right ahead of Marvin Frias, because remember that you're not stopped in the pit lane for 35 seconds. You're rolling through for a lot of that time. So he has found a window on track. Hopefully he's timed this right. He's sitting in the box for about 16.5 seconds was his teammate's time. 17, 18.6 seconds. That's a slow stop for Brockway.
Yeah, it is. Just for record, Sean Mulholland, who we saw the first driver to come down into pit lane, his stop was about 16.8 seconds. Frankie Arvello's time was about 17. Waiting on Dean Guru right now. His looks very, very long at 19.6. So that is going to be interesting. We'll have to see if that changes anything around here for Adam Brockway, if that maybe finds him down the order. Oh, Drew Lidke having a problem there, and I believe that is out of turn 4. I'm not entirely sure what happened to this Aston Martin. Looks like just caught a little bit too much curb, tried to get on the loud pedal while he was off onto the grass, and that is enough to send that yellow Aston Martin spinning around.
Yeah, he did a little bit of Tony Hawk Pro Skater on that curb there. He was completely off the ground, couldn't steer the vehicle. Darren Rutherford, on the other hand, he didn't clip the curb, he just clipped the grass, and that is literally the fastest part of the track. He probably was full lock there going into the wall, and he still couldn't get it slowed down, so Darren Rutherford joins Corey Clark in the few drivers who have actually had huge incidents tonight.
Yeah, it's been relatively clean, as there we can see Diaz and Castillo Romero in pit lane. I'm also seeing Perugio and Brown coming in. It looks like it's going to be Diaz ahead of Francis Castillo Romero, 16.7 and 17.2, and that means they will be able to jump over Adam Brockway here at this point there. You can see the YS Motorsports driver working his way around right now, and he is going to lose those positions.
And Adam Brockway is going to be kicking himself so hard right now. Why did I put those extra seconds of fuel in the car? What happened? Why was my calculation wrong? How have I thrown away the win of this race? And where did an extra 2.3 seconds of fuel come from compared to Michael Diaz? Obviously, Diaz was able to save fuel running in second. Romero was too, but they were both still kind of maximum attack. They were both definitely still fighting. I don't know if Adam Brockway has just overfueled the car, but he's got a lot of work to do now and a lot of questions to ask himself.
Yeah, indeed he does, but the first one he has got to try to answer is he going to be able to get by Francis Castillo Romero, as this looks like the battle on hand, as Michael Diaz has been able to scamper his way off into the distance here just a little bit, to the tune of about 2.2 seconds. That is the biggest gap we have seen out of the leaders all day long. But right now, we watch this battle for what we anticipate being P2 as soon as they cross over the start-finish line. Patrick Bachelard, who pit from the lead of the race there, the number 100 into pit lane. Here they come, coming down the front straightaway, and it looks like the BMW able to pull away a little bit from the Aston Martin.
Brockway didn't get his trademark great exit out of the final corner. Romero did a very, very good job there to minimize the bouncing of the BMW. He hit the curb perfectly. He didn't ride it the wrong way, and that was enough to keep Brockway behind. But through turn 4 here, Romero got a little bit aggressive. He almost gets in the wall trying to run the curve on the exit. Brockway's definitely there, but the BMW just has enough of an advantage in a straight line that Brockway's not going to be able to pull alongside him this time. He really needs to take advantage of the final corner and go for it in turn 1.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, Joey. That has got to be where he tries to make that move, if at all possible. He's able to carry some good speed there down through turns 6, 7, and 8, but not really all that much of an overtaking opportunity, although we did see that try to play itself out a little bit earlier on in the race. The other thing that I'd be a little bit worried about if I was Adam Brockway and trying to send a move here at this point in the race is I don't want to let Michael Diaz scamper off into the distance. I may still have my eyes on the top step of the podium.
He definitely is still thinking about that because he knows he has the speed to do so. He knows he put it on pole legitimately with no draft, with no help from his teammate. He can definitely fight with Diaz, but with every lap that passes, every lap that he gets held up by Romero, Diaz just extends and extends and extends and extends. Again this time, not close enough to Romero in turn 1 to go for the move. Turn 4 here. Let's see if he can get a better exit. He's actually a little bit tighter on entry than Francis Castillo Romero that time, so that's going to kill his run again coming down the back straight. He's probably getting quite frustrated right now.
Yeah, probably getting more than a little frustrated here as they try to be able to get themselves around. I've got to think that that is just such a big frustration. Joey, you've got a lot more experience in the car than I do. What can you try to do when you're in this position? What can you try to be able to elicit out of the driver in front of you?
Adam Brockway's kind of advantage tonight has been that he has been rock solid in terms of running his line. He hasn't made any mistakes. He's just been running the track. He's been staying in the groove while a lot of drivers around him haven't. So what he needs to do here is force Francis into a mistake however he can That's proven exceptionally difficult, but it is possible. You saw when Francis got a little peek at the lead a little bit earlier when they went 3 wide to turn 1. It was Francis Castillo-Romero who came barging in and kind of threw it off the road and made a mistake. Brockway kept it clean, kept it smooth, and kept the lead because of that, and he's going to be able to make the move around the outside of Romero now.
Yes, he is. Good heads up there coming down into the chicane. We said a little bit earlier you couldn't really get a pass done into 2 and 3. Well, Adam Brockway proving me wrong, and crucially, he didn't lose all that much time to Michael Diaz up ahead of him. The gap is only about 2.6 seconds here at this point, and with about 11 minutes left to go in this race, I think that may be slightly catchable.
It definitely is catchable. Brockway is quicker, but it's similar to the fight in the MX-5s that we just had tonight with San Diego and Sampaio. It's one thing to be quicker than the driver ahead. It's another thing to catch them as Romero locks up into turn 9. He almost wiped out Brockway there. Very well done to get that car slowed down to stay out of the back of Brockway, but if Brockway was looking in his mirrors, he got quite the Halloween fright there.
Yeah, he certainly did. That had to absolutely scare him like no other. But look at that gap starting to grow already. 0.8 of a second, and taking some good time here out of the gap up to Michael Diaz. Over this last lap, it looks like he was able to take out about 0.2 of a second. Now, he's going to need a little bit more to try to close down, but he was able to take almost 0.5 of a second down through Sector 3, and that may just be enough.
One thing to bring the gap down, though. It's another thing to actually make the move. It's a cliche, but that's because it's true. Adam Brockway, though, has a little chip on his shoulder, though, a little extra excuse to make that move on Michael Diaz because he wants to redeem himself for last season when he should have won this race if Michael Diaz rejoined the track correctly. Instead, Sean Campbell ended up winning that one. So Brockway has a chip on his shoulder tonight. He really wants to win this thing, and you can see the advantage he has through 6, 7, and 8. That Aston Martin is so much better through that part of the track. He brought down the gap to Diaz by like 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, he certainly did. That's a fantastic run there for him. And as we said, that's the area of the track where he looks most electric, where he looks like he's able to do it. Closing down in a little bit as they go, trying to see what they are trying to do. Here they go. As they cross over the line, the gap came down by 0.7 of a second. That's exactly what Brockway needs to do.
I don't know what's going on with Michael Diaz because 133 or 113 threes rather are some of the slowest laps of anybody in the field. Bachelard is quicker, Arvello is quicker. That makes me wonder, has Michael Diaz actually underfueled the car a little bit? Is he saving a little bit of fuel going down the hill, and that's why Brockway is catching him so much? I'm not sure, but Diaz is running very, very slow lap times right now. Brockway can see the gap coming down. I don't know if he has his relative open. Lots of drivers swear by not having it open. I personally would. I want to see this gap come down because that's going to hype me up to actually be able to fight Diaz.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. I want to know what those gaps around me are. If I am Michael Diaz, I want to know what it is. By the way, speaking of lap traffic and gaps, this is what we've talked about. They are closing down a little bit on lap traffic, but I don't think it's going to come into play here. Oh, we've got a couple of drivers down into pit lane there. I think that was Darren Rutherford who's had a little bit of a problem here. Sean Mulholland, who is going to be the first car they catch, but he's 20 seconds ahead here at this point, Joey. I think they're safe from lap traffic.
Yeah, Mulholland is about half a second slower than Michael Diaz, so you would need, let me do the math. You need 42 more laps in this race to catch Sean Mulholland's lap traffic, so they should be pretty okay there. Diaz was able to turn the pace back up on that last lap, though. He did a 1:12.7. That's better than a 1:13.3. But Adam Brockway ran the fastest lap of this race, or the second fastest lap of this race, with a 1:12.3. So he's still on the attack.
Yeah, he is still on the full-throated attack here. Here we've got a nice little battle starting to play itself out a little bit farther down in the pack. This is a side-by-side right now between Drew Lidke and Joel Paguro as they try to be able to get themselves down. This is Aston Martin versus BMW, a little bit of a different song on a different lap here for these drivers, but it looks like there that Joel's going to be able to pull ahead, and now trying to make a little bit of headroads in behind there is Drew Lidke.
Yeah, Joel Peguero was the driver we saw in qualifying in the mysterious new black BMW. It's mysterious because this is the first time we've seen Joel all season, or it's the first time I've seen him in the PRL. I don't know if it's his debut overall. He's made a mistake in turn 4, though. He's opened the door for Drew Lidke again. He had the position made. Just got a little bit too greedy in turn 4. Had to check up to stay out of that concrete wall, and he might lose 2 positions for this, because Chase Brown as well, who had to make an extra pit stop, is on the attack.
Yeah, everybody's seemingly on the attack here as they try to run their way through a little bit. This is definitely starting to have the hallmarks of closing down under 6.5 minutes to go, which is what we are at here. All drivers trying to be able to get their way ahead, trying to push as much as possible here at this point. Lidke right now trying to close in on the back of Frias, but Frias in that McLaren looking like he's starting to pull away a little bit. Chase Brown maybe the one who's on the attack now, Joey.
Aston Martin versus Aston Martin. You know, Chase Brown definitely has the pace advantage here. He was in the fight for P4. He wasn't even in the fight for P4. He had P4 locked up. Bachelard was like 7 seconds behind him. That's easy money on Drew Lidke there. And he should be able to get by Frias as well. And I think he'll probably be the last driver he's able to get by with 10-second gap up to Dean Giroux. I don't know why Chase Brown had to come in for a second time. I don't know if he just didn't put enough fuel in the first time around, but he's on a recovery drive and he's putting himself on TV one way or another.
Yeah, he certainly is doing a good job there, and at P8 around Sandown, he has nothing to shake a stick at, as he's now going to try to close in on the back of Marvin Frias. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field right now, Michael Diaz has a mirror full of Adam Brockway. The battle is on for P1 is here. We close down 5 minutes left to go here in this race as these drivers work their way through turn 4 right now, coming back onto the main straightaway, or the back straightaway here. It looks like Diaz is able to get a little bit of a better run out of the corner, but trying to see what he's able to do here is Brockway.
I don't really know why Diaz is going snake mode down the back straight, because that's just slowing him down. That's slowing his momentum down to swerve like that with Brockway behind him. It might work in turn 1 when Brockway's a little bit closer, but when Brockway's like 6/10 back, that is only slowing yourself down. So I'm sure Adam Brockway realizes that if Michael Diaz is going to be a little snake, I'll just keep running my own line, and I'll take advantage of that and make up a little bit more speed. But let's compare him through the final corner again. We know Brockway can be more aggressive on the curb. Diaz is getting a little bit more aggressive, but you saw him get a little bit out of shape there. There was just a little bit of a hop, and even that little hop was able to get Adam Brockway a little bit closer.
Yeah, just a little bit closer on that last lap. The gap came down by about a 1/2 tenth here. That is what it is down to here at this point. Now that Brockway is fully caught behind him, we're not seeing the 3/4 tenths of a second drops that we saw earlier on in the race. But Brockway trying to apply as much pressure as possible to the back of Michael Diaz here as they work their way now down through turn 4 onto the backstretch. This was the area of the track last time around that Diaz was able to pull a little bit of an advantage, but Brockway now seems like he is close enough to be able to take full advantage of the draft. He is on the loud pedal. The gap coming down under 2/10 of a second. Is he going to think about a move down into turn 6? He starts to fade a little bit that way, but he gets on the binders a little bit early. He's going to keep this aggressive attack coming on.
Diaz is under control, though, into turn 9. That's where you might expect a driver under this much pressure to make a mistake to open the door for Brockway, but Diaz got on the brakes well. He's going to keep holding back Brockway here, but Brockway's going to be able to set up a great exit here through the final corner. At the line, I think it'll be 3 laps to go, and this is the closest Brockway has been down the front straight in a little while. It's still 4/10 of a second. I don't know if he'll be close enough into turn 1, but he is as close as he can possibly be.
Yeah, he is. The gap's at about 2.5 tenths of a second here. It looks like Diaz is just able to get a little bit of a better bite out of the tires there coming out of turn 11, and that's being able to hold him at bay. A wide run there for Brockway is going to scupper a little bit of the chances. The gap now expanding upwards of about 6/10 of a second, and he's got to now worry about from behind because Francis Castillo-Romero has been able to keep in on the back of this battle, and he's not letting anything go. They do start to expand a little bit here, coming down the back straightaway through turn 5, and again, Michael Diaz goes in defense mode, starts to weave, starts to move this way and that. Now he's going to stick onto the outside of the track, the racing line here as they fly their way through turn 6. It doesn't look like Brockway's close enough to mount an assault.
There was just a little mistake by Brockway through that corner that really scuppered his chances onto the back straight, but he was able to recover, and that's what's critical. You can make those little mistakes. You have to get away with it by recovering in the rest of the lap, and he has done that very successfully. Through the final corner again, he wasn't close enough last time around. He is closer this time around. He's a full 1/10 of a second closer. He's within 3/10. I think he might be close enough to go for a dive into turn 1 here. He's bringing the gap down. He might still be a 1/10 too far off, but there's 2 laps to go. He's got to start thinking about doing something aggressive, and there he goes.
He's going to have a look down to the inside, but covered off well. There was Michael Diaz being able to recognize that coming and faded down to the inside a little bit to be able to block that off. Now as they work their way up through turns 2 and 3, again we see at this point in the track Francis Castillo-Romero starting to close down a little bit more as they run. Now weaving this way, now weaving that way is Michael Diaz trying to do everything he can do to break that draft. The gap is about 3.5 tenths of a second, and there could that be the final weave from Diaz to be able to hold on onto the racing line on the right-hand side of the circuit. Yes, indeed, that does look to be that way, as now they fly their way through turn 6 and 7. This is the part of the track where you're not really going to see too many overtakes go as they try to work their way through. Francis Castillo-Romero still looking threatening there from behind, Joey.
It's gonna be his last chance into turn 1. This needs to be the final corner of Adam Brockway's life here. The gap's expanded a little bit up to Diaz, but it's a good exit from Brockway, but he was just a little bit too far back. There's 0.4 of a second in it. Brockway might be able to close this down, but he's gonna have to brake later than he's ever braked before, and maybe force Michael Diaz off the track a little bit if he wants to make this into turn 1.
Staying off to the side, there is Joe Pagurio being nice and courteous, letting these drivers on through. The gap holds at about 0.2 of a second as they work their way through turn 1 right now, up into the chicanes of 2 and 3, trying to see if anything is going to be able to play itself out here for these drivers. Closing down is Adam Brockway as they pilot their way out of turn 4. The gap is 0.3 of a second. Diaz goes into full weave mode once again, trying to break that draft as much as possible. He knows what's at stake here as they work their way down the backstretch. Closing in 1.5 tenths of a second for Adam Brockway. This could be the moment to make the move. He's going to have a look down to the inside. Is that going to be enough? No. Diaz shuts the door. They work their way through 7 and 8. Trying to see what they are able to do is Adam Brockway. And here comes Francis Castillo-Romero trying to close in behind. They work their way now down through the crink of turn 10. Not seeing a whole lot of opportunity here for Adam Brockway, but he's not going to be disturbed. He's going to try to be able to work his way around. But now as they come down through 11 into 12, dare I say, Michael Diaz has done everything he needs to do as he runs to the line to take the checkered flag. Diaz wins over Brockway, over Francis Castillo-Romero.
That was a great exit out of the final corner on the last try for Adam Brockway. He needed that on the lap before. I think he knows that. He was just a little bit short, but what a battle again at Sandown. We need to come back here every season. You couldn't script that any better. Same two drivers who were battling for the win last season. Do it again, and Michael Diaz comes out on top this time.
Absolutely fantastic as we flick our way farther back down in the field right now. This is Wyckoff leading right now over Mulholland. Trying to work their way through contact going into the final corner, and that is going to be Wyckoff spun around.
A little bit of an argument with William Brennan there, but William Brennan is going to get his first top 10 of the season. It's a shorter field, but you know, you take them when you can get them. If there's a 15-car field, the top 10 is still a top 10, and William Brennan kept that car on track. He gets his first top 10 of the season.
Absolutely good stuff there from William Brennan. Here is Wyckoff able to recover from that spin, and he'll find himself pointing the right way and coming across the line there in P12. Joe Pagurio will be the driver to come home in P13, the last of your drivers running out on the day. And that's going to bring us to our final finishing order here. It was Michael Diaz holding off a fervent attack from Adam Brockway and Francis Castillo-Romero. Then it was Patrick Bachelard and Frankie Arvello rounding out your top 5. Dean Giroux came home P6, followed by Chase Brown, Marvin Furias, and Drew Lidke. William Brennan for HBDS Academy is able to score his first top 10 of the season. Sean Mulholland came home in 11th, followed by Matthew Wyckoff, with Joel Pagurio in P13, 1 lap down. Corey Clark was able to get back out on track despite suffering some damage and finished 3 laps down. Darren Rutherford, unfortunately, a DNF here on the day. Well, Joey, not nearly as crazy of a finish last time that we were here, but still, nevertheless, a great race and a great battle up at the front of the field.
Yeah, not as crazy, but luckily this time it was a clean finish, which I guess is important, and I'm sure that means that we'll actually get to talk to both of the drivers who were involved once they decide to show up here. And oh, there he is. There's our winner. Michael Diaz just decided to show up. He'll talk to us, and of course he will. He just won at Sandown.
Well, Michael, I have got to start at the end there. The last 5 or 6 laps, it looked like the ultimate display of defense there. How did you keep your cool?
Just thinking on the win, just focus on the win. And I know it's a hard track to pass, so I just had to keep it clean, which I almost didn't. I almost crashed by myself and that fast left-hander. But we're all good. So P1 today, good job.
Very good job indeed. You've got to be walking away incredibly happily with that. But I have to ask you here, it looked like you were able to make up some good time in the pit stop. What happened there? Were you just able to fuel it a little bit better or what?
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to pass Adam on track. I couldn't keep up on the fast sector, and I was just terrible on the last corner. So yeah, I underfueled a little bit to try to get the jump on him on the pits, and it worked. And then I just had to manage a little bit towards the end. Unfortunately, I made that mistake, and the gap closed, so it made it a little bit harder. But yeah, it's just a bit of a fuel game, and luckily I got in front and made it to the end.
Well, you made it to the end. You made it work. And we have a little bit of change of scenery. Next time out, we head to a Formula One style circuit in the form of the Nürburgring. How do you like your chances there?
I'm not sure. I'm kind of pissed. I wish we raced on the Nordschleife. I prefer that track, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know how good I am at that GP circuit. I don't like it too much. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, everybody comes back after they got their candy. We could have a full field again.
All right, well, yeah, we hope to see a full field again as well. But Michael, as for tonight, anybody you'd like to thank who makes this possible?
As always, my teammates, the guys at PRL, our sponsors, and shout out to Francis. I was trying to get him to come to the interview, but his English isn't all the way up there, so he didn't want to join. I guess he was a little embarrassed. But yeah, shout out to him. Great job today. Wish we could have got the 1-2, but 1-3 works. So yeah, good job to him.
Good job indeed. And Michael, congratulations on being able to take a win here at a very, very tricky Sandown.
Yeah, thanks guys. You have a good night as always, and thanks for broadcasting.
Our pleasure. That was Michael Diaz, your victor here from Sandown. And Joey, it looks like you have been able to catch up with driver of the number 42 in second place, Adam Brockway.
Adam Brockway came up just short at the end there. What more do you think you needed coming to the line?
Oh man, it was a great race. I know they were fuel saving behind me, so I don't know. Michael's fast, man. I was hoping to get him on that last straight on the white flag, but he's just too quick.
So is that what made the difference in those 2.3 seconds in the pit stops? Was that Diaz saving fuel and you not being able to in the lead?
I believe so. I think they were holding back a little bit, and I was sweating. I was pushing. I saw you made a couple mistakes, relative with increase, and then out of nowhere he'd be half a second within me. So.
Why do you and this track click so well? Because last season, you arguably should have won the race if things went correctly. You were in the fight for the win tonight. Why is Adam Brockway so good at this track?
It's a fun track. I like it. A lot of people dog on it, and I feel like I have some good pace here, and it's you have to be consistent at this track. You can't make mistakes. Going a little deep in one of those hairpins, you're going to lose. At least 0.2. So. Consistency is key here.
It's Halloween. We're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you do your best Sandown Australian accent and thank all of your teammates?
Oh, of course. Oh, I don't have an Australian accent. Hey, YS Motorsports down under. Thank you, boys. Happy Halloween.
I don't know what accent. That sounded like you were going New Yorker. I'm walking here. But either way, I'm sure they're all happy to hear that. Congrats on the podium tonight, and hopefully the third time's a charm. Maybe we'll come back to Sandown next season, and you'll finally get it done.
Fingers crossed, guys.
That was Adam Brockway, second place finisher tonight, DJ, but maybe he'll be the first place finisher next time we come to Sandown.
Maybe he will indeed. We'll have to see how that plays itself out. My Australian's not great, I apologize. But as we said, next time out, we head to the Nürburgring in the Grand Prix layout for this GT4 Fixed Series. And that is going to be absolutely incredible to see those drivers take around that incredibly historic circuit. But as for tonight, we are sadly just about out of time here from tonight. So on behalf of all of us here at RaceSpotTV, myself, DJ TJ Clark, as well as Joey Tebben and our director and producer, Hugo Luis, behind the scenes. It has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action here tonight. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.